Alright, I just need to tweet out and stuff, so yeah. Do that real quick. Where did my tweet go? Alright. I think that's all I need to do. Rather just get everything out of the way before I start talking. Alright, that's good. Yeah, let me know if the sound is like really low. I don't really know what I can do to fix that other than get closer, I guess, but hopefully the sound is coming through at least. I don't actually have any way to check right now because I don't do this, so my setup isn't real. But yeah, we've got 128 pools of Kagaribi. They're all open on my device, so my computer's going through it right now. Is it coming through? Okay. Seems low. I mean, it is like past midnight, so I don't want to like wake my neighbors. It is very late, but I think as long as you guys can hear me, I think it's fine. I'll get a little bit closer to the microphone, but yeah, I don't know. Just turn the sound up, I guess. So yeah, so we've got a bunch of pools. I actually don't remember what the we've got like way too many pools here. There's 128 pools. This is a crazy tournament. Schedule. I think this is 8:45. The first wave starts. I think that translates to 9:45 Eastern time, Eastern US time. So just convert that from what you will. People need to get there by 8, I think, or people need to get there by 8:45. But the fact that you're going into the city, I've actually looked at the location. It's not really close to any hotels or places where people live. So maybe it's close to places where people live, but definitely not any hotels. So you're going to wake up. People are going to have to wake up pretty early to get to pool A at least. So we'll start with pool A, wave A, and we'll just keep on going. And we'll just. I guess the plan is just we're going to go through every phase 1 pool, and maybe we'll look at the phase 2 pools, and we'll just see what seems interesting here. This is pool A1. I don't actually know what the exact seating is, but Mia's the first wave in this pool. Mia, this is Teru. I actually don't know. There's 2 Terus. This is the plant Teru, I think. Plant Teru. Jusan is a pretty good Lucas. Konokaru is a really good Kirby. Actually, I downloaded this thing. I don't know how good this is gonna be, but something to think about. Also, it doesn't go that far. I think the biggest thing to watch out in this pool is this is a really good snake player online named Ishihara Maya. He fights TK, which is a Steve in this round, and I think this is like probably the most likely upset in this pool. This pool is pretty standard. I think Violet's a Greninja from Australia, but I don't think it's likely that they defeat Mia here. So yeah, so I think the biggest thing to watch out here is Ishihara Maya, who is a pretty good Snake online. I think they've been pretty inactive, but they're still pretty okay. I think they can definitely beat TK, and I think they might be able to beat Kanokaruru. Sky, I think, is from Hong Kong or Taiwan. I don't actually know who they play, but I think those regions have never been. Oh, sorry, Sky's from China. I think this plays Joker, but I'm not 100% sure, and their Twitter is gone. So yeah, so I think that's like the biggest thing here is Mia. I think Mia's very favored to make it out here. I don't think he loses the plan. I don't think he loses this Lucas. I think Kanokaruru if he has to fight TK, he's historically done pretty bad versus Steve, and these are very close seeds. So if Kanokaruru has to fight TK, I think he loses. But if Ishihara Maya makes their TK, I think Kanokaruru has a better chance of making it through. So I mean, that's just the first one. This is Pool A2, and this is where we get our first kind of big name international guy, which is Light. What's going on here? C versus SS. I guess this is a Fox. This is a Nidoking player. I think Amelia is a Sephiroth or something. I don't remember. I know Mest is a Ness. This is like I think maybe a few years ago this would have been concerning, but I don't think Ness has been a huge problem for Light recently, and Mest is frankly not particularly great. So yeah, so that's this side. TKM is a Cloud Peach Diddy Kong player. Natsume, I believe, plays Greninja. So maybe there's something here, but probably unlikely. I think a lot of these upsets are going to be pretty unlikely unless there's like a very clear matchup differential. But that's kind of how it is. Beat is a really good Falco from Australia. I think he's one of the best Australian players in attendance here. And I think he has a shot of beating TKM. I don't remember which region he's from. I think he's from Victoria, which means that he would probably have experience against Dura, who is the best Cloud from Australia, but I'm not sure. I think Australia, usually when they travel to Japan, has been fairly underwhelming other than Zach at Sumabare that one time, and Kanaji, of course, but and I guess Jay Dizzle when he used to travel more. But I'm not entirely sure what to think about B. I think this is his first time going out of country, or at least if it's not his first time going out of country, then he didn't do the greatest the other times, because I don't remember a good run. But yeah, so that's kind of the biggest thing to watch out for here is just kind of what happens to B. I don't actually remember who Space plays. Not that I'm not actually 100% sure if I ever knew in the first place, but take a look. This is a Min player. So this is maybe, I don't know, potentially concerning for him, but this is like a fairly big seed differential, so we'll see. A3 I think is the first one I saw where something could get a little bit dicey. This is Vario's up here. Vario has to fight Nelk in winners finals, who is a Sephiroth player, and Sephiroth Luigi is obviously like a pretty absurdly, like, it's not very good for Luigi. I think Vario's good enough to win this, but I think this is a little bit concerning. I'm not entirely sure. Nelk is not the greatest, and he doesn't really like upset people very often, but if he was ever gonna upset people, would be it. Adrian is on the other side here. Adrian is a Pokemon trainer from France. He's fighting Kamisuke, the hero, and I think this is like the first instance of like, okay, yeah, this seed 3 is definitely going to beat this seed 2, because first of all, there's a language thing with hero, and I think also Adrian is like, I think he's just barely made it out of pools at both Sumabato and Obaitori. Kamisuke is definitely not as good as he was a few years ago, but I think he's still a very strong player, and obviously hero versus foreigner is going to be concerning. So yeah, so I think Kamisuke probably has a decent shot of making it out here, but we'll see. Carmelo is, I'm going to try to use this more. Carmelo is the first seed over here. I actually don't remember who Manyu plays. I want to say they're like a Zelda or something, but I'm not 100% sure. He plays K-pop. I don't know who he plays. Hold on. Yeah, usually the second best thing to do if they don't say it on their Twitter. The wires are in my way, but Manju is Terry. Okay, this is Terry versus Bowser Jr. into Carmelo. I don't think Carmelo should have an issue here. I think the bigger thing to watch out for is on the other side. This is Higa-chan. Tede is a decent Pokemon trainer than Rakuen, who's a pretty good Byleth. And obviously Higachan, one of the best Ganondorfs in the world, definitely top 3. I don't know what the order is really, but definitely top 4 for sure. Rakuen, a decent Byleth. I don't know how this is going to go. Obviously Higachan being a Ganondorf player like Tede here playing Pokemon Trainer like could definitely beat him just because of matchup things. I definitely like learned at one point who Gude plays. I think they play Hero, but I don't think there's anything else to really watch out for other than Higachan having to get through. Once Higachan makes it out, he will have to fight Carmelo, and I think that's probably pretty unlikely for anything interesting to happen there. So yeah. Now this is a crazy path. So this is Cola. People know Cola at this point. I think he plays Roy. Now this is a K-Rool player. Not only that, this is also a K-Rool player. And this guy plays Ridley. And this guy plays Pikachu. I don't know if he's gonna make it through, but maybe that's relevant. So basically, Cola's been stuck in a pool with like a bunch of really crazy low tier heavies. I don't know, Ridley's I guess technically not a heavy, but Cola's definitely got one of the worst pools that I've seen. I don't remember a lot of them, but Cola's is really bad. I think he probably has a good shot of making it through this K-Rool Yukurino Hito, who's like an okay K-Rool. They're not like incredible or anything, but they're like okay. They do things occasionally. Pufude is also like fine. I don't know. Like these, I'd be very surprised if Cola lost either of these two, but these two players on the bottom here are definitely very concerning for him. It's Ball and Korinku 1219. Ball famously is one of the best K-Rools in the world, probably second behind Brew at this point, depending on what you think about Lukewarm and whether him being inactive means he's not eligible to be in the conversation. And Korinku 1219 is one of the best Ridleys. I think it's very difficult to tell who's better between him and Moenai Goma in Japan, but Korinku was, I believe, honorable mention on Lumirank once, which means that he's pretty good. And both of these players are super online players. They played so much online, so this is going to be a pretty tough draw for Cola. Once he gets out of pools and even here, having to deal with a K-Rool or a Pikachu before he even makes it out of pools, I think is going to be a little tough. So I think Cola's path is really bad. I'm just gonna put it out there. Lima's here. Lima, his first opponent here is a Bowser Jr. I'm kind of not really looking at these players. I heard that this player is a pretty good Lucina from online, but it's not super. I think they're not super like likely to make any huge wave, especially at least in winners. Usually when Wi-Fi players, my Sumamate players go offline, they don't usually like become like top 10. I think Akola is like the only person I know of who's actually done that. Even Mia had a couple of rough tournaments before he actually won his Kagaribi, and no one else has really broken through so suddenly. I think so yeah, so I think I could see Hirochi Uten making it through losers. Let me see what their losers path is. Like getting sent here, going through here. Like Latte is a Pac-Man player, and I guess I could see Lucina being Pac-Man. I think they also play Falco, but yeah. On the other side of Lima is Repo and Latte. Reto is Mega Man, of course. I think he hasn't been very inactive, but I think I don't remember. I think the last time he went to a tournament after a big hiatus, he didn't do super well. So I'm not entirely sure what to think of him, but Latte is also a player who hasn't been very active at all either. So Lima's kind of gotten a bunch of cryptids in his pool. But fortunately, Lima, kind of being in the same area as Peanut right now and going to school together and being on the same team together, I think he's going to have a lot of Mega Man experience. So I don't really see any issues for him going out of this pool. I think it's possible that this Kirby here, Neko Daruma, is going to be a little bit more impactful in his run, but I'm not 100% sure. And obviously, Repo has been a good player in the past, has a proven track record, so it's possible he could make an upset over Lima, but I think it's pretty unlikely given Lima's matchup experience. And Bayonetta wasn't really like a meta character when Repo was active, is the big thing. Meister's here. I think Sunri is a Pyromithra. That's his first obstacle, and then Sankotu is a Palutena, and Nagare is a Kazuya. I don't really have much to say about this pool. I don't know the other players in this pool super well. I think Nubutani plays Lucina, who's only notable because they play Lucina, honestly. Because that character is rare. But yeah, I don't really see any problems for Meister. Meister's coming off of his win at Obaitori, where he won pretty dominantly, obviously got a little bit of an interesting bracket. Did lose a game to Bethley, but otherwise, like, I don't think he lost like many games where he wasn't expected to. I guess he went down 2-0 to Goryoka, but cleaned it up pretty convincingly. So yeah, so I think Meister's probably fine going out of this. Obviously, Palutena Game & Watch is not the greatest matchup, but I think Senkatsu's like fine, but hasn't really done anything super crazy. Nagari's, I think Nagari's like, there's a lot of Kazuas in Japan, obviously. Nagari is not like super high up on the echelon. He's a pretty good player from Kyushu, but obviously being out in the middle of kind of being a little bit isolated is a little bit difficult for him to get super good practice that isn't online. So I think this pool doesn't really have a lot to talk about. This is Rocky's pool. Now, Rocky has always been a very up and down player, and I think if you're looking for a potential upset, you're probably going to want to look to Rocky first. Ray is an okay Mega Man, though. Like, this 4th seed isn't really inspiring a lot of upset confidence. And obviously, like, a lot of these 4th seeds, like, this is like a seed 400, 500 player, so not too much to expect here, but yeah. Mega Man obviously does do fine into Kazuya and Steve because of his zoning capabilities, but nothing too crazy, I think. LY is on the other side here. LY and Naoki previously were Nao. LY is Korin, Naoki is Falcon. And then Goma Kempi is here for some reason. Goma Kempi is an Olimar player from Michigan. I think, obviously, Suspect lives in LY's region, but also, or Suspect lives in Goma Kempi's region, but also LY has, I'm sure, numerous sets versus players like Uame and Sam. Really good Olimar players. I don't know if Noi goes Olimar into LY. I feel like he'd probably go Pokemon Trainer, but yeah. So I don't think nothing too crazy should happen here. LY and Naoki. Naoki is not super. I don't know. I think he's very hot and cold, and I think LY is also very hot and cold. Like, this is just kind of just a chaos pool of a lot of people who can get upset or be upset, or like get upsets or get upset. So we'll see. Naoki obviously does live in Naoki lives in Kansai, which is where they have a couple of Korins. Daigoro, I think the most prominent, Tsukune, is doing things recently. So we'll see if that matchup experience comes into play. But yeah, Rocky on the other side. Expect him to cruise through winners, but he could lose to Rare. I mean, he's lost to, like, Roy before, so I'm not really confident. I'm not like the most confident in him making it through untouched. Mutes, this is Mutes' pool. Mutes, Pac-Ray, I think, is a Pac-Man player. So this is like immediately like a little bit of a concerning draw for him. I think Pac-Ray's Pac-Man. We'll never know. Mizuruna, I believe, is an Isabelle, but not 100% sure of that. The other side is My Pen and KR. Now, KR is a Mario, Banjo, Kazuya player from Chubu. My Pen is Zelda. My Pen is also one of those players that is very hot, very cold. Could do anything. Lose to this guy or BKR. My Pen and Mutes actually have fought. They fought at the last Supernova. To make it into, I believe, top 128, and Mutes, I believe, 2-0'd him because that was still best of 3 territory. So we'll see if anything is different, but this is kind of a pools match that has a result that's already happened. So yeah, his Mutes' path before has always been a little concerning, especially because the last time Mutes went to Japan, he did not great. I don't think Pac-Ray and Mizuruna aren't like the level of player that he was losing to or going close to, but I think it's still important to know that Mutes did not do the greatest. So maybe Mutes coming to My Pen's territory will maybe flip the script. We'll see. Taikei's on this side. I think this is a different Wataru than the Bowser. Masamon, I believe, is I think Masamon's a Ken player. Swashi, I believe, is a Bowser Jr. Skew is DQing. So I think that's like something notable is that there are a couple of players that are just DQing. I think a lot of international players who didn't get the memo that they're supposed to be DQing before the kind of cutoff. So Skew is going to be DQing. So Yoshi is probably going to have a pretty clean path through Ray. This guy, Ray 1000 or whatever, I don't know how you say his name. I think he's a Fox player, so I don't think Yoshi should have too much trouble with him. Which sets up Yoshi versus Taikei. Now, Taikei recently lost to Akasa, I believe. So I'm not sure if that says anything about Yoshi's ability to beat Taikei, but I think it's relevant to note. Nothing else is super jumping out at me at this pool, so we'll just move on because there's a lot of pools to get through. This is Goryoka's pool. Now, Goryoka is set up against Dozuchi. Dozuchi is an Ice Climbers player. Goryoka's fought everyone at this point, but I don't think these two have fought because Dozuchi hasn't been super active. The other side is Mion and Lumirank, and Reed is a Pyramithra player from Tri-State. Now, Mion plays Sheik. He's done, I think he had a very hot start to the season, but has recently kind of not done super well, but yeah, I mean, he's still like a very strong player, and I'm not sure. I think Reed is I think Reed might be a little bit under-seeded here as a 7th seed in a pool. I think that means that he's probably around seed like 800, but I think it's very difficult to see these international players, and so yeah. So this will be interesting. I think both Mion and Lumirank could definitely beat Goryoka when they make it out of pools, but I think this matchup here is a little bit of a toss-up because of how things are. I think Mion is obviously favored, but because of kind of his recent performance, I think he has run into a bunch of difficult matchups like Ice Climbers, Pac-Man, etc. So maybe having a path with like Pyramithra and Little Mac and Joker on the other side is probably going to be pretty promising for him. So yeah, pool 12. I feel like I've seen this player before, but I don't remember, or maybe I haven't. This is Xian's pool. Xian fights John or J Snake. John is a Bayo, J Snake is a Wolf. I don't think either of these players should give Xian issues. I think the bigger issue is on the other side where Yoko Sharp comes in. Yoko Sharp is a Rob, and obviously Rob here is pretty bad for Hero. I think Xian will probably be going Joker in that matchup, because I think that's what he usually does. But Xian's Joker is definitely not as good as his Hero. Tuden also plays Joker here, so if Yoko Sharp can get through Tuden, I think it's pretty likely that he makes it through Xian's Joker. And I think Yoko Sharp is a fairly solid player. I think they recently did pretty well at a Chibi tournament. I don't know, all these tournaments can kind of blend together, but this is a Parachute from Colorado. I don't know this person. But yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing here is Yoko Sharp over Xian is pretty likely. A1300 is Candle. Candle fights Mantis P or Yakara. This is Banjo or Fox. Yakara is currently semi-active in Kyushu. I know he was very good at the beginning of Ultimate, but he's kind of been pretty okay since. Mantis P I actually haven't seen much of since for a while, but they're pretty good Banjo. I don't know how much Banjo experience Kendall has, but I'm sure they can find some while they're here. The other side is Kaki P versus Ton. Kaki P is a Diddy Kong. Ton is a Wolf, I believe. I don't think there's too much to say here. Ton could definitely beat Kaki P. He's beaten better players. One of the people who beat Rocky, I believe. So, who has beaten Rocky? So I believe it's possible that Ton beats Kaki P, but nothing too crazy here. And I think Candle should probably handle the winner of this fine. I think, yeah. Rio is here. Rio has to fight Logs round 2, who is a pretty good Zelda player, I believe, from Arizona. Oh, actually, Rio has to fight Nyanchan. Nyanchan is a really good Link from online. Nyanchan has beaten Kome offline and done a couple other things. This is a very low seed for Nyanchan. Obviously, he just hasn't been to anything very recently, so yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably Rio's most difficult guy going into this. He is another Banjo. Noki, I believe, is a Ken. So I don't like, these aren't like super concerning, but I think is this I'm not sure if this is the Chinese player or not. I know there's a Chinese player named Nigo, but I don't know if this is the Chinese player. That's pretty interesting. I don't think they're beating Logs, but I'm not sure. yeah, the other side is number 8 and Sha. Sha plays Roy, number 8 plays Luigi. I don't think there's too much to say here. Number 8 is pretty solid. They're not super active in the kind of big scheme of things because they live in Tohoku, which is probably one of the least active regions in Japan. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea there. Either way, a very good player is going into losers where here. So they're going to go through here, and they have to fight loser of here to get it out. So it's possible that like Nyanchan loses to Rio, then Rio loses to He and Nyanchan, and Rio will fight again for what 5/13th I think this would be. So yeah, so it's an interesting case. I think Nyanchan is definitely one of those very low seeds you have to watch out for, and this could be like a very big upset. But other than that, nothing too crazy in this pool. Masa is in here. I think this is. I don't remember what. There's like another really like scary Kazuya player that isn't Frontier that's here, but I don't remember which one they are. Masa's here. Masa fights Noir, who I believe is a Steve. Nininga and Ataka are on the other side. Nininga's a Wolf. Ataka is a Samus. I don't think Masa should have too much issue here. And honestly, this in general is like not like a super concerning part of bracket for the top seed. I don't think this is the person that I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyone, I don't know how many people are watching, to be honest, but if anyone like is, I don't know, has like thoughts or wants to like say something about the pool, feel free. I do have chat pulled up on my phone, but so I can look at it, but I don't know. No one's watching, so I don't know if people are here. Anyway, Waka's here. Waka is seeded to fight Lunia round 2. I know it says Kasutero, but Lunia is definitely better. Lunia is Lunia is one of the best Luigis in Japan. Very good online. Has done a lot of stuff like offline as well. Here, let me see. What is the best way to like sort of? That wasn't it. I don't know what the best way to like pull up a Smashers app is, and I kind of give up. But yeah, Lunia is a very good player. I think Lunia is definitely favored to make it over here, and the Waka and Lunia will have to play Luigi today. Now Waka is definitely better than Lunia, but I don't know. It could get a little bit dicey because just how Luigi Dittos work. The other side here is Saya. Saya's an Ice Climbers. I don't think Waka should have too much an issue with them. I think Lunia is clearly like the 3rd or 4th best player in this pool. So yeah. On the other side is Ko and Mimo. Mimo plays Ness. Ko plays Fox. I don't think there's too much to worry about here, especially from Waka. FBEP, I believe, is a Korean player. I don't know who they play, and I don't know. They're not like super duper relevant, but I know they're like pretty solid. So I don't know. There's something interesting to note, but yeah. Gachapi is here. Gachapi fights N or Lambda. Lambda's a Pokemon trainer, N is a Mario to make it out. Gachapi, of course, playing Lucario, but also has Sonic and Ice Climbers. Sue is on the other side. Now Sue fights Tom. Tom is I think Ryu Shulk from Kyushu. Sue is currently living in Hokkaido, where I don't know what he does. But Sue is mostly a Cloud player now, but obviously still has Lucario, still has Terry, still has Me Sword Fighter, still has like all the characters he plays. So this could be a pretty interesting kind of pools, right out of pools, Gachapi versus Sue, if these players make it out. Nothing too crazy to note here. No super hidden boss or anything. No like crazy upset potentials. I think N like maybe can forward air Gachapi like a bunch of times, and that'll be an issue. These are all best of 3 pools, the round 1, so anything could happen here, I guess. But yeah. This is a really interesting pool, actually. I actually did not know all these people are in here. Now, Anarchy is currently the best Greninja in North America, in the Americas in general. Dar's a pretty good Kazuya. Is this Jordan from Louisiana, or is this a different Jordan? No, this is a Jordan from Washington. Okay, so they're not like super concerning, I think, for Anarchy. Daru here, and then Lunamato's on the other side. Arliss is a okay Little Mac from the southwest somewhere, I think. And then Kamokun no Namashi Bikaku Doriru is a Terry player. I think I definitely expect Lunamato to make it out of the bottom side. Yeah. Lunamato's definitely been playing very well. Recently got top 8 at Obaitori. Kamokun no Namashi Bikaku Doriru is fine, but I think he definitely has been on a downtrend. This is definitely one of the players I pay attention to a lot because his name is pretty funny. But he hasn't been doing super well. At least like not as well as he was before, which like wasn't really like great. But he would take like high profile wins every now and then, which isn't really happening anymore. So I think this is probably set up to be Anarchy versus Lunamano, which would be a pretty I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch if we can watch it. Next pool is Ryope. Ryope has Shiki or Tsunamayo. Now Shiki is Zelda, Zero Suit Samus. Tsunamayo is Toon Link, and obviously this is a pretty like it's not like a great role for Snake, who both of these characters I think are pretty good at like dealing with Snake's range and harassing him from a distance, and I'm not sure how in practice Sky is, and obviously Ryope is getting a lot better, but this is definitely an area of bracket that has a little bit of concern. And also on the other side, Iba is also Zero Suit, so Ryope has seeded Zero Suit into Zero Suit, which is obviously not the best for him. Raya is a Steve, I believe. Kanikama, I don't know who they play, honestly. But I think Iba probably makes it out of here pretty safely, and Ryope on the other side is a little bit shaky. Like, I think Sky has definitely a pretty good chance of beating him. Ryope is probably one of the lower seeds in the lower one seeds, so we'll see. I don't know, we'll see. Pool A20, A2000, I guess, is Sin's pool. Sin has Shu on the other side. I actually don't know. I guess Kazuya, because their profile's a Kazuya. The other side is Igoski versus Paragas. Dark Angel is a Toon Link from Texas, I want to say. Scar's really funny. I didn't know they were here, but they're old Smash 4 German Shulk, I think. Or French Shulk. I don't think they played too much Ultimate, so it's pretty interesting that they're here. But, yeah. Nothing too much to note here. Obviously, the Paragas who makes it through, he has to fight in Ice Climber's Fox, which would be pretty difficult. Igoski's definitely favored, though, to make it out on this side, and yeah, so we'll see. I don't know what Sin and Igoski's kind of records versus the other characters are, but yeah, other than that, I think the other players are not super worth. I don't know. I think I'd be pretty surprised if the other players here made super big upsets, but we'll see. I think it's possible Dark Angel makes it through losers, defeating Jiro and Shu, but other than that, nothing too crazy. A2100, top seed here is Nyonoke and B. Second seed is Eron, Juso, Sora. Nyonoke and B plays Diddy, Eron plays Roy, Juso plays Inkling, and Sora plays Pyramithra. Shimning, I actually just learned about like an hour ago, but they're a pretty good Korean Lucina, I think. I actually didn't know about this player because Korea hasn't like updated their rankings in a long time, and I just don't really pay attention to their scene. But Shimning, I think, they just like top 16 to pretty big local in Japan. They tied with Linzel, and I think they beat players like Matsuda. So yeah, historically I've like kind of written off Korea because they haven't really done incredibly when they travel to like Japan, but I think there's definitely something to be watching here. I don't think Shimning will beat K and B, but I think it's possible they make it through probably Sonata. I expect them to beat Juso or Elon on the other side here. K and B has not had K and B, like, he lost at Obaitori to G Extreme and Ryukai, I think, which are not the most promising losses. So we'll see kind of what happens there. But yeah, the others are not. I think the other players here are not going to give him the biggest issue. Obviously, like Pyramithra, Rob, these are like good characters piloted by solid players, but we'll see. This is A22 with Andres. K plays Min Min, and Namachacha plays Robin. These are both pretty awkward matchups, I think, for fighting game characters. Obviously, I think it's pretty unlikely that Namachacha beats K, so I think K will probably make it through here to fight Andres FN, which could be difficult for him depending on how warm he is in the Min Min matchup. On the other side, we have Natsu, Lila. I think Turtle Cat is from Australia, but I'm not 100% sure. X13 here is from Tri-State. They play Marth. Natsu plays Pokemon Trainer, Lila plays Rob, I believe. So nothing too crazy to call out here, I think. On the other side, yeah, Turtle Cat is Australian. I don't know who they play. Mikoshiba is an okay Luigi. I haven't seen that name in a while, but they're probably fine. I actually am not sure. I think Mikoshiba is probably favored over Turtle Cat here to make it to Lila. But other than that, nothing too crazy in this pool. Just Andres FM versus K, I think, is the big call out here. A23 is Kanaji's pool. Kanaji has Ryokutan or Amzak. Amzak, I believe, plays Zero Suit. Ryokutan is a Game & Watch player. Now, obviously, Kanaji has a couple different characters for like different matchups. He has Shulk and Snake. He's definitely going to go Shulk versus Game & Watch, I'd assume. And so we'll kind of see how that goes. I don't expect Kanaji. Kanaji's been playing a lot better than kind of recent form, or like his early year form recently. Doing pretty well at Cafeteria Cup, doing pretty well at the other kind of tournaments he's been to. I think he won a local over Yone Piece, so yeah, so I think Kanaji's pretty warmed up. On the other side here, you got Yuzu, you got Hamazo. Yuzu plays Rosalina, Hamazo plays Donkey Kong. Although his Smash Up currently has him as a Snake, so he might be like dual mating or something at this point. But yeah, Rosalina, Min, Donkey Kong, Snake. I think Yuzu Kanaji could be a potentially interesting set. I think Yuzu would probably go Min just because Rosalina Shulk sounds awful, and Min does pretty okay into both of those characters. Probably worse into Shulk than to Snake, but Yuzu's also a good player. So I think going out of the pool, that could be an issue. But other than that, I think within the pool, there's not much to call out other than just these are the top seeds, and I don't think any crazy upsets are going to happen. Actually, I think this Kaneshi Kanako is like an online player, but I don't remember who they play, and I don't think they're like super good, so I'll just keep on going. A24, Suno plays Isao, who's a Rob, to make it out of pools. On the other side, we have Lucky, the plant player from Minnesota. On the other, they have their opposite Chaco, who's an Inkling player from just local Kanto area. Goamochi is also kind of relevant. They're, I think, an Olimar Yoshi player. I think... So yeah, so I think here it's just kind of a matter of like Lucky versus Chaco is a little bit interesting because I'm not entirely sure. Like, as I did note, this is pretty early in the morning. I think that actually might favor the people from like North America coming in because usually usually wake up early from jet lag, but I'm not sure how to like follow their potential they'll be playing. So we'll have to kind of see how Lucky is doing, and Chaco's a pretty solid player. And I'm also like, Inkling's not a very common character. Obviously, Plant isn't a common character either, but yeah. So I think Lucky Chaco is like pretty interesting here. Suna Isao, I don't really expect to be too crazy, but yeah. All right. Pool A25, we got Orion, Eruna, Lapi, Jinjin. Paroka is also from Korea. There's like a pretty big Korean contingent. I think Paroka plays... I actually don't know. I wanted to say Fox, but that doesn't sound right. Yeah, so Lapi, Jinjin, I think this here is not super interesting. I actually don't know who Eruna plays. I want to say they play Greninja. So... No, they play... okay, they play Pyramithra. So... yeah. So I'm not sure. I think Orion hasn't had the super... K? I don't think they played Terry. I think they just played Ken. But I'm not 100% sure. That was like a couple pulls ago. I'm going pretty fast, but also I'm not looking at chat too much. But yeah, I don't think K ever played Terry. I think they played Ken mostly, and then they switched to Minmin when Minmin came out. They might have played Terry, but that would have also been like, I don't know. K's never been like a super like relevant player, so I'm not 100% sure like what their character path is. I'm sure that it's a listed on Smash Wiki if he's been playing. If he's played Terry, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Orion hasn't had the greatest Japan so far, but I think he's been okay. And Aruna's like not a super like crazy player. I think Orion Lapi is where things start to get a little bit concerning. Orion did, I know, drop a game to some Rob. I don't remember what their name is, but They dropped a game to a Rob on stream at Obai Tori, so we'll see. Lappy's definitely a lot better and is kind of hot and cold, but definitely can beat Orion. So yeah. Pool 826 is Kuhaku's pool. Kuhaku has Arika to make it out, who's Jigglypuff. Nothing too crazy there. The other side is Omawatsu and Kizuha. Omawatsu, Minmin, Kizuha, Pichu. This is a potential upside, I guess. And obviously, if Kizuha makes it through Omawatsu, he has Donkey Kong, which maybe could be like pretty good for him. But in general, I don't know. A lot of these pools I'm finding are like not like the most. I think there's like a couple small upsets that can happen, but I don't see, like, for example, Kuhaku losing to Arika, barring some like crazy like thing. I mean, this is best of 3, but I think Kuhaku's definitely favored to make it out. I think Omawatsu is definitely less favored. Omawatsu is pretty inconsistent, especially in his region. Obviously, this is not his region, but Kiza is a okay Pichu, and Pichu Minmin is kind of, yeah, holy moly. How do I actually don't know how to mod people. I don't know how to destroy people with... Oh, I can do this. Okay. Ban. Delete. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Bots. A27 is Noi. There's actually no... I guess there's this person, but there's not a lot of international here, which is pretty interesting. Noi. Wada, this is a Minmin player. Not confused with Wada No Period. Miru is on the other side, who plays Kazuya. And Oz is a Steve player. So, yeah. So we'll see. I think Miru's, as all Kazuya players are, Miru's pretty hot and cold. Oz is pretty decent. Definitely could beat Miru. Noi Wada is also pretty interesting. I don't know what Noi's record into Minmin is, but I guess like matchup wise, that could be a little bit annoying for him. But yeah, so this is a sort of, I don't know, keep an eye on this pool, I guess. As we go down in the pools, I think that kind of thinking will become more and more prominent. A28 is Daigoro, Ratsu, Aim, Squall. Aim, Sheik, Squall, I think Joker, Rob. More Rob, I think, than Joker. Ratsu's a Greninja / Kazuya. Easy Dog, I believe, is a Rob from like NorCal, but they're not like PR levels, so I don't think Daigoro would have an issue with them. I think Daigoro Ratsu is something to watch out for, just having kind of Greninja against Swordies, that kind of deal. Ratsu's obviously a top player from Smash 4, pretty solid in, yes, pretty solid, pretty decent in Ultimate, posts pictures of rodents on the internet, as Alt mentioned. Aim Squall, on the other hand, I think Aim has been pretty inactive for a while, but I believe when the last tournament he went to, he did okay, not great. But this is, on the other side, having Joker Rob is like a pretty good role for Aim, as opposed to like some dingas mid-tier that beats Sheik like Pac-Man or Ice Climbers. So I think Aim has a pretty solid path to make it out. I think Daigoro has a less solid but still pretty favored path to make it out. So yeah, A29 is AK's pool. AK, I actually don't know. I think Cigarette's another Snake. But maybe I'm just saying this because Snake has a Cigarette. Cigarette is a... I don't actually remember. They might play... I'm not sure. I think they might play Snake. They might play Bayonetta. Not 100% on that. But, yeah. This is like an okay Bowser Jr. player seeded into Cigarette. That's really funny. On the other side is Teshi and Smazio. Smazio is a Korin from Australia who's pretty decent. I think they're like pretty high ranked in their region, which is ACT, I believe, which is Kanachi's region. Teshi is a Samus player. I don't think Smazio should have... I think Smazio is definitely unfavorable as a Teshi. I think Teshi probably makes it out here. AK has to fight BT Yamato, who's like a historic good player, playing Little Mac, which is always like a pretty concerning thing. And then into Cigarette, who I don't remember who they play. I want to say like Snake or Bayonetta or Joker, some character like that. But yeah, AK, I think BT Yamato is probably the most concerning person here before he gets Ateshi. Just Little Mac in best of 3. Pool A 3000 is Atada's pool. Atada has Hanadon or Naki. Naki's a Lucina, Hanadon's a Lucario. I don't think there should be too much of an issue there for Atada. The other side is Leia and Kai. Kai is a Pyramithra player. Leia is Greninja, of course. And I think Leia's really underseeded here. Wow. This is like a, what? This is like a 90-something seed? 100-something, maybe? Yeah, 140. That's kind of crazy. I think Leia Atada is probably definitely a set to watch out for. I think Leia taking it over Atada is not, like, very unreasonable at all. So, that's the biggest thing here. I think, like, Hanadon obviously can do Lucario things, but against Ness, it feels less possible because of just how Ness, like, kills people and eats Aura Sphere. Pool A3100 is another Ness, which is Sumaho. Sumaho has Aurorisa, who's a pretty good Sora. Like a pretty decent Sora. On the other side is Spritzy and Haramogu Hero. Shirube is also here. Shirube is a pretty good Min who recently beat Taikei in like a upset factor 12 or something. So I think Shirube versus Haramogu Hero is like a pretty important set to watch. And I think the winner coming out and fighting Spritzy is also going to be pretty interesting, especially if Shirube makes it out. I'm not sure. Could be concerning for Spritzy. We'll see. Sumaho on the other side, I think, obviously Aurorisa is going to be a little bit of a, maybe not like the best pull, but I think Sumaho is good enough at this point where the matchup isn't like a super big issue for him. And last one for pool A30 for wave A is Danny's pool. Danny has Hatsukami to make it out. Hatsukami is a Pikachu player. I think they're probably like the 4th best Pikachu in Japan, 3rd or 4th, somewhere around there. On the other side is Shupi, Alistair, BL, Scrafty, and I think JB. I don't actually remember who JB is. They might be the Chinese player. Yeah, this is a Chinese, I think, Samus player. Yeah. So we'll see how this goes. I think JB I think Scrafty probably makes it through here, and Shupi makes it through here. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting set. Scrafty versus Shupi. Shupi's definitely favored here, but Scrafty's the best player in Mississippi. So, I don't know. It's possible they could do it. And then Danny Hatsukami, I think, is a little bit concerning, I think, for Danny just because of Pikachu. But I think Danny's good enough and fairly consistent to the point where I think Hatsukami shouldn't be too big of an issue for him. Obviously, going out of the pool, I think Danny Shupi is going to be a pretty important set to watch. But yeah, that does it for pool A, wave A. I want to see if there's anything we can do in this part, but I've already like forgotten everything that I've talked about, so I'm just gonna like really quick go through some things. Obviously, Orion Lappy's something interesting. Danny Shupi's interesting, and if whoever wins that goes on to fight Mia, probably, which is, I don't know, something maybe to watch out for. Waka Gachapi, I think, is I don't know. I mean, Gachapi, like Lucario having the Aura Sphere might pose some issues for Waka, but obviously he's going to be dying early, so I'm not entirely sure, but this is something to watch out for. Mute Suna, I think, is also interesting. Obviously, like, as I mentioned before, Mute could mean the Maipan, Suna, Kalusa Lucky, or whoever else comes out on that side, so we will see. This pool is Light Sumaho, I think, I was talking about Ness earlier with Mest in Light's pool, but I think Sumaho is definitely better than Mest by a lot, and is like closing in on like the best Ness in Japan title. So I think that's going to be a little bit concerning for Light. The other side, I think these are fine. Anarchy Ludamato is pretty funny, but I don't see anything crazy there. Kuhaku, I think we decided this could be Kizuha, the Pichu player, but I think Kuhaku will probably go Steven to Meister if they play. Taikei, obviously this isn't Skew, this is, I don't remember who it is, and I can't see because these wave names are really long, so I don't remember which pool that is, but, oh, I actually just saw it. Taikei versus Yoshi, and then Kinaji versus Yuzu, so, yeah, nothing, that's kind of what that looks like. Here, Raru, Adrian, Atada, Leia, I think yeah, again, again, Leia Atada is like pretty interesting. I think Leia is actually a little bit favored here, which to fight Raru. I want to say Leia and Raru fought, or Leia and some Luigi, and I don't remember how it went. This is going to have like a decent shot of being Eva. Just this Ryopei section to fight Ryuo. Lima's probably gonna make it through here. Noi Miru. I don't know. Anything could happen there, and then Goryoka Mion. Andres could lose to K, but also might not. So yeah, nothing. I think this part seems fine. Mion, I think, has a decent path of Goryoka and Andres if he can, I don't know, lock in. But let's do the A36. Carmelo Higachan is, I don't know. I don't think Carmelo should be worrying about that. Carmelo AK is interesting, but also AK could lose to Teshi. He could lose to, I don't remember who's in that pool, but yeah, Candle Sin. I think this is going to be pretty concerning for Candle. I think historically, like Ice Climber is obviously much more developed meta in Japan than in North America. I actually don't remember where Treyarch lives, who's like a pretty good Ice Climbers from around Candle's area, but I think they might be from a different state. I think they're from Minnesota and Candle's from Wisconsin, so I don't know if I don't think they played. But Sin will be coming right off of an Olimar win, so he should be warm for that. And just so we know, winners round 1 here is best of 3, winners of quarters is best of 5. So Kola has to fight Ball in best of 3. This could also be Karinku. Either is possible. Either is pretty bad for Kola. Dagoro Aim, I think Aim has a like decent shot of making the upset there as well. So yeah, I don't know. Kola has like honestly a pretty terrible path. He also has Daigoro here, which he's had trouble with Korin in the past, I believe. Shion Yoko Sharp, we mentioned that Yoko Sharp has a good shot of making it out here. Yono beat Yono versus Erdogan. I'm not sure. We'll see. That does it for Wave A, so I'm gonna just get rid of all these tabs so I don't like have to destroy my computer any further. This is gonna take a long time, so we'll go a little bit faster, I think. B100. Doramigi is here. Nei is here. Urusaki, Matsuda. I don't think there's anything too crazy here. Matsuda plays Game & Watch. Did take a game off of Yara, so could be Urusaki and Doramigi. Urusaki, I believe, is from Hokuriku or some place like that, so I'm not entirely sure how good they are, but I think they're pretty solid. And I think Matsuda is definitely the most concerning player in this pool for Doramigi. I think Guts LP is also... I think they might be Australian. I'm not 100% sure. B2 is Syrup's pool. Syrup's, I think the biggest thing for him is Lando Bokumetsutai, but Syrup lives in Jersey, and Jersey has like 3 Bowser Jr.'s, so I don't think this is too big of a deal. But Lando Bokumetsutai does play Bowser Jr. The other side is Levi and Sumatsuda, which is Inkling versus Dr. Mario. Either way, whichever one comes out is going to probably just lose to Steve. So yeah, nothing too crazy there. B3 is MK Leo's pool. MK Leo fights 57 or Mofumo Kubiwa. 57 is a Shulk. Mofumofu is a no shield fox, which is an interesting choice. But yeah, I think James is a Greninja, but I'm not 100% sure. The other side I think is more concerning for MK Leo because Ishipon and Zaya are both Kazuyas, and so it's kind of like Kazuya versus Kazuya here, and the winner fights MK Leo. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Poppin I think is a pretty okay like Dr. Mario Little Mac player. Beat Big D recently. I don't really know what that means here in this pool of Kazuyas, but I don't know. They're pretty solid, I think. Definitely one of the best Little Macs and one of the best Dr. Marios. Not that that's like a pretty hot, not that's a super high bar. Onin is here. I actually don't even know who YT is, so I'm gonna assume that Onin's probably fine here. Whip is on the other side in Kikuzakari. Jengai is also here. Jengai Guitar Lord is super interesting. Guitar Lord's like a raw Misor fighter from New England. Jengai is a Richter from NorCal. This is a pretty interesting. This is just like a bunch of zoners into Onin, and I think the biggest question here is like what happens in Whip Onin, because Migunner doesn't do like super crazy bad into Steve. Obviously, I think Onin's like pretty good friends with Lol Yoshi, who's like a pretty good Migunner. I don't know how good Whip is at the Steve matchup, but I think this is a pretty not the greatest draw for one of the top seeds. B5, this is Tame Pitafuku's poo. Tame Pitafuku is Haroa to make it out. Haroa's a villager player. The other side is Tomato versus Dynamite. Dynamite is Terry. Recently, honorable mention Tomato is a Bayo Pikachu player. So yeah, so I don't think there's anything too crazy to call out here. I don't think Tomapi should have too much of an issue making it through this pool. I think Dynamite definitely has a good shot at upsetting Tomato. But nothing too crazy. I think Resin's a Snake or a Mega Man. Akakigasu's pool. Kairyuu-chan, I believe, is a... I think they're a Min, but I'm not 100% sure. And then on the other side is Rarkyur and Budoshu. Now, Rarkyur has been not having the greatest time. I think in Japan. I think he's not been doing super well. I think he's been getting match checked a lot, and I think Budoshu is definitely not going to help with that. So we'll see. Obviously, Rarkyur does play some pretty good matchups, but he's also lost some theoretically pretty good matchups. So we'll see who comes out on top. I think Rarkyur is definitely going to be hard walled by Akakigasu, just because of menu and because of like just I don't know, character experience and stuff. So yeah, I think Dusto's a Greninja or something, or maybe I think of someone else. B7 is Ken. Ken has Bancha, London. London's a pretty good Falcon. I think Bancha plays Kirby, which is, we'll see how that goes. Bancha's probably favored to make it out over London, which means that Ken probably has a pretty okay path. Zoo is a old K rule. I haven't seen that tag in a long time. The other side is Yuto and Nako. Salzando's pretty interesting because they're really good Game Watch online, but I don't think they've done like super great offline before. So we'll see how that goes. I think rolling Yuto is definitely unfortunate for Salzando, but we'll see. And I think Salzando, it puts Salzando in a path where he like has a pretty good shot of making it out. So yeah, so Salzando definitely worth watching out for. Cosmos' pool. Cosmos has Fuasata or Iwashi. Iwashi is a plant. And now Fuasata does play Falco, so I think it's pretty unlikely that Iwashi makes it to Cosmos, but I don't know. Fuasata is also, I don't know. Falcons have lost a plant before for some reason. So we'll see on that side. Sabaton is Rob. Goma is a Meta Knight. I think Goma could definitely beat Sabaton here. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I know Goma recently defeated Otsu at like at their collegiate event, so it's like possible. It's also Meta Knight Rob, which has historically been a pretty good matchup for Meta Knight. We'll see who comes out on top here. I think obviously this being Cosmos' pool, this is going to be one of the pools people are watching for upsets, but we'll kind of see. Oh, this is actually pretty funny. I actually didn't notice this, but Norio is also a plant. So Fosta like might be fighting plant into plant, which is interesting for sure. B9 Yoshidora's cool. Yoshidora fights Sho. Sho I believe is a Snake Rosa player, I want to say. I think Soramame, who's on below him, is... I think Soramame is a Rob player. So, yeah. Interesting there. Nothing too much to say about it, though. JY and Sam on the other side. Sam is an Olimar player, I believe. I think this is the Olimar. And then JY is a pretty good Terry player. Very good online, less good offline, but still pretty solid. Yeah, so nothing too crazy here. I think Sho is a pretty interesting... I'm surprised they're this high up. But yeah, they're not like super active. But definitely a decent player. Probably not beating Yoshidora though. B10 is Siski's pool. Siski has NN, who I don't think I've ever heard of this player. Oh, the other side is really funny. This is Malk here. Joni is here. I don't know who this is. This is Paulo. Paulo is a Fox player from New England. Malk is top 150 min. I honestly don't really know how he got top 150, but it's like that, I guess. Joni is a Lucario from Austria. So this is going to be a pretty interesting pool to watch. Malk has potentially Paulo into Joni into Siski, which is just international, which is really funny. Okay, this guy looks like he plays Corrin based on the handle. So I don't think Siski should have too much of an issue there. But yeah. I think Malk could give him an issue. Siski probably doesn't really... Probably not too worried about Joni, to be honest. But yeah, so this is a pretty interesting pool. B11, Puna is at the top here. Nukosuke is, I want to say Falco. It looks like a Falco. I always want to say it's Nukoeru, who's a youngling, but it's not. Furu is a Hero, I believe. So I think that's a little bit concerning for Pimna. Obviously, Falco Hero is really bad. Not very good for Hero, but if Fru makes it through, he has to fight Pimna. And obviously, Hero Mega Man can definitely do things, but it is a little bit concerning, especially if like bounce is active or something. But Pimna is a lot better, so I'm not sure. On the other side is Ocha and Rain. Ocha, Rosalina, Rain, Pyramithra. Nothing too much to say here. Ocha's pretty inconsistent, could definitely lose to Rain, and Ocha's not been doing super well recently. I actually don't know what Rain's been up to though, so yeah. Interesting pool here, nothing too crazy, but Peanut fighting potentially Japanese Hero could be a little bit concerning. B12, there's a couple of international players here. Susu is the big one, obviously. Alwai is, I don't know. There's like so many people with like this kind of tag. I want to say they're a Cloud, but I'm not 100% sure. And we will never know because all they tweet about is anime. So yeah. On the other side is Kuroponzu and Tenpi. Kuroponzu is, I think a couple of people noted that Kuroponzu is very underseeded here. I think it's because Kuroponzu recently changed his account because I think he lost the login to his old account, so he uses his other one, so he's got a very low seed here. So Tenpi, I believe, is a Pac-Man. I don't think Kuroponzu should have much issue until he gets to Susu, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting set, Kuroponzu versus Susu. Obviously, Susu does take some interesting losses in Japan, and Kuroponzu, obviously, a very good player, so we will see. B13, Reno's the top of this pool. Keanu's on the other side with Shokubo. Keanu, Link, Shokubo, Falco, I think. So that's kind of the top part there. On the other side, this is Kanata, who I believe is a Luigi. Kind of Bunsen fighting Delta Force is really funny, actually. Kind of Bunsen Kirby. Delta Force is a Link from New Jersey. Pretty good Link, honestly. I might favor Delta Force in this pool. Or, sorry, not in this pool, but in this matchup here. And honestly, I would not be surprised if Delta Force made it to Reno in winner semis here. Just like over kind of Bunsen over Kanata. Jersey's obviously a very good region. Delta Force's fringe PR there. And these matchups don't sound too terrible for Link either. So I think Delta Force has a pretty good chance of making it to Reno and then making it out of pools. Count on the other side, obviously another Link. Shokubo could beat him, but not 100% sure on that. Obviously, matchup-wise, it doesn't sound great for Link, but I mean, he's that good with Link for reasons, so we'll see. But I think the big thing here is Delta Force being what I believe is the 13th seed, I believe. 12th or 13th seed. I think it's the 12th seed. Definitely has a chance of making it into winter semis here. I don't think he beats Reno, but in losers, either way, he's gonna have it's gonna be a nice path for him there. B14 Neo. Neo's been looking really good recently. So the other side here is Urumi, who's a Steve player, Witchy, who's a Joker player. Sawstep is a Greninja from the Pacific Northwest. So yeah. I think Neo shouldn't have too much of an issue. Nagiri, I believe, is a Zero Suit Samus. So maybe that's a little bit weird, but nothing too crazy. I think there's more than one player named Sakurai at this event, which is really funny. B15, Malna HO. Tori Samiro, I believe, is a DDD player. So this is going to be interesting. DDD versus Donkey Kong. DDD does not do super bad into Donkey Kong, obviously. So we'll kind of see how that goes. The other side is Miko versus Shu. Shu is another Min, I believe. I play someone else. I actually don't remember. And then Miko is Kazuya. So let me just check Shu really quick. I think it is Min. So it's Miko Min versus, or Miko Kazuya versus Shu Min. Definitely an upset potential there. I don't think Miko has a Pyramithra that he uses sometimes, but still not like the most comfortable matchup for him. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Yeah. B16 is Omega's pool. Omega's got a pretty interesting pool. You got Nemu. Nemu's a Steve player. Lived in BC for a bit, but is back in Japan. I think Omega has shown himself to be pretty good versus Steve. So I don't think there's too much to worry about for him there. The other side is Niaya versus T-Earth, which is Steve Kazuya. I don't actually know how Omega is versus Kazuya, but against Steve, shouldn't be too big of an issue for him, I think. Obviously, Niai, pretty good player, did beat Susu recently, so we'll have to see. But Omega looks not too bad recently. Pool 17 is Masha. Masha fights Sharo Petoro, who I think is I want to say Falco, but that doesn't. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on who they play, and we'll never know. Sharo Petora. Sharo Petora is a Pyromancer player. Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's that. The other side is Kyo versus Orca. Orca's a pretty good Pokemon trainer. Kyo is a pretty good snake. Yeah. Again, this is, I think, Orca's definitely unfavored here. Kyo is a very good player, but Orca definitely can make some things happen. I don't know. Masha should win this pool, but he's also been susceptible to just losing. And Charbator is not a terrible player, so I wouldn't really be too surprised if we lost to Charbator or one of these two. B18, Navy's pool. Navy, I actually don't know what Navy's been doing recently, but Navy is Cabo, who's a Donkey Kong to make it out. On the other side is Rinoha and Samurai. Rinoha's a brawler. Samurai is a Pac-Man. Chipotle is from Australia. I don't remember who they play. I don't actually know who they play. But yeah, so nothing too crazy here. I think Navy has a pretty decent path to make it out. These are all like pretty solid players though, Rinoha especially. So we'll see how that works out. But I think probably Luigi's probably favors the Luigi, so wouldn't really be too concerned about that. I do know Hindsight is DQing. That's like another DQ I know of. So Kurofune has a pretty nice path to make it out. Tass on the other side is going to fight Higasa, who I actually don't know super well. Maku I know is an okay Sheik. I actually don't know who Higasa is. Oh, this is Gurop. Okay, Gurop is a snake. Snake Shulk, I believe. I actually didn't know they changed their tag. That's weird. But yeah, so Tass has not been doing super well recently, but I think Higasa is still at the point where Tass should be fine. Kurofune is going to be pretty difficult for him, though. So I think this pool will probably go as seeded. This is one of the big ones. Skeleton here. Skeleton is Kazuya from Texas. One of the most inconsistent top players, I think. One of the most inconsistent players around his ranking range. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I know he's in Japan already, so he'll have a couple of days to shake off the jet lag. Nyan, I believe, is a decent Mii Sword Fighter from pre-Mii Sword Fighter Luigi era. So we'll see if they know what's going on. Nyan is also like, yeah, I think they're like a pretty decent, like they're like pretty good in Brawl, I guess. Yamagon is a Ridley player, I believe. So I think Skeleton, he's already got a couple like strange matchups off the bat. The other side is Nano, who is a Zelda, and Momon, who's another Ridley. So I don't know. Skeleton's got a bunch of like low tiers, but these are like weird low tiers, and I can definitely see Skeleton losing to Yamagon or Nano, or even Nyan if he's playing really not good, and Nyan hits all this stupid stuff on him. Because I don't think Mii Sword Fighter does super badly into Kazuya. Just it's a good poking down tilt, good recovery, and now can kill him pretty early. So we'll see. B21 is Fururamen at the top. Goto, I believe, is Guam's best player. They play Ridley. This is the Guam player, yeah. So that's going to be interesting off the bat. Wani Wani is also a Ridley. There's so many Ridleys at this tournament. And MTF Dugong is Seal, who is a pretty good ice climber from the tri-state area. On the other side is, I don't know who this is, but SR is a good snake, and Loaf is Wario from Minnesota. Very good player there. So I don't think SR would beat Loaf. I think Loaf has a decent path making it out, so I think this is fine. For Ramen, this whole part is weird. I think we don't know how good Goto is. Just Guam doesn't have a lot of crossover, but I think he hasn't been super impressive the times he's come over. So I think for Ramen probably makes it through. Wani Wani is fine. I think Seal is a little bit concerning, but I think given the ice climbers differential between Japan and North America, I think Fururamen should probably be okay. But yeah, there's definitely some I think there's definitely no sure bets in this pool just because there's a lot of strong players in this one. B22, Leaf is here. Akari Mizunashii is the second seed. Akari Mizunashii is Wii Fit, obviously. Hinotsuki is Fox on this side. Hinotsuki is pretty solid. Akari Mizunashii is very good though, and I think they've been playing really well recently, just like taking pretty decent sized Tohoku events and stuff. So I think Kagaribi actually makes it out here. The other side is Ara, who I don't remember who they play. It's like, I think it's just one of those generic good characters, but I'm not 100% sure, like Steve or Rob or Snake or something. But oh, sorry, it's Greninja. That's not a generic good character. It's a rare good character. But yeah, Ernest Clam is Extra from Australia, who I think mostly plays Wolf right now. Extra is not super great at the moment, but I don't think they have a lot of Greninjas in Australia, so I'm not expecting Extra to make it to Leaf. Would probably expect Ara, but yeah, Ara I think has like an outside chance of beating Leaf, and I think Akari Mizunashii and Leaf is going to be a pretty important set for that part of the bracket. B23, Rimu's here. Rimu has the option of Gunman or P9. Gunman is I think they're a loose Palutena player, and then P9 is a villager player from Australia. It's an interesting path. The other side is Peanut versus Miles, and Fruitolucky is here. Fruitolucky is a Lucina player. Miles plays Terry. Peanut, of course, playing Little Mac. I think Peanut's probably fine going into this part. Obviously, Little Mac is not a good character, so he could just like get gimped 4 times and die, and just lose. And Miles is a decent player, so I wouldn't really be surprised if that happened. But if Peanut gets out of that pool, he's very likely to fight Rimu, who's, I don't know, maybe Steve versus Little Mac, not the greatest, so yeah. I'm not sure. Rimu is pretty inconsistent. He could lose to Gunman. I don't think he loses at P9 just because character differential, but we'll see. B24, Gact is the top seed here. Opposite him on the top is Tough Snow, who's a Zero Suit from Canada, and Takutaria, who's a Rob player. I know Tough Snow. I think they have a lot of Rob experience versus Titanium, so I think Takutaria shouldn't be too bad. I don't know about their Ness experience though, and I know Ness is not comfortable for Zero Suit, so we will kind of see how that goes. The other side is Tomisa versus Kokomiru. Tonave is a pretty good Bowser Jr. Kokomiru is a pretty good, very solid Banjo. Banjo and Bowser Jr. are like Japan's low tiers of choice of this right now. Tomisa is Ice Climbers, of course, so I think I'm not sure. I think this bottom part is going to be hard to call. Tonave is not as good as Kokomiru, but I think he definitely could make the upside here. Tomisa obviously playing Ice Climbers, anything could happen there. And I think Tomisa is a pretty good shot of beating Gact if they make it out. So yeah, well, that's that pool. Now it's here. Tenny, I think, this is the Pokemon trainer from Texas, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I actually didn't know they were here, so that's pretty interesting. Tamafuyu is I think they play Pyramithra and Byleth. They're from Puerto Rico. They're one of the best players from Puerto Rico. Core is a Greninja, who's right under Tamafuyu, so I think they're going to be a little bit difficult with Tamafuyu off the bat. Suinoka's on the other side. Suinoka fights Roki Tendon Man, who is a Rob, so I think Suinoka should be fine on this side. I think Now has a couple of interesting guys on his side of the pool, but I don't think there's anything too crazy. Tamafuyu could maybe put up a fight up against him, but I wouldn't count on it to. I wouldn't count on him to be like super likely to make the upset. A26. This is Yu's pool. Yu's the Filipino, right? Filipino Pyramithra, pretty good player. Kono on below him is Falcon from Kansai, so we'll kind of see how that goes. I think Yu's obviously a very good player, but I think, and they've done well in Japan previously, and they also do well in North America, so I think it's a pretty good chance for him. Bambi, I think, is also from Australia, but I'm not 100% sure, and I definitely don't know who they play. Bambi's from Sweden. I don't know who they play. The other side is Shirome and Maya. Shirome is a really good Toon Link, and I actually favor Shirome over you. Shirome got, I think, 13th or 9th at one of the P tiers last year, or the S plus tiers or something. Went very, very far. Very good player. Maya is a Steve, decent, but probably not beating Shirome. So I think Shirome is definitely the most favored in this pool to make it like past this and then the finals in the next phase. I think Yu is good, but Shermay is just an incredible player. Recently won, I think, Kurbra or something over a lot of really good players. I think double eliminating Leaf, something like that. So, yeah. B27, Roki is the top seed here. Roki fights Hashio in winners semis, who's a Greninja. Deuce is a Rob from Massachusetts, is PR there. Jungmo is like an okay player from the south. Probably not a worry to Roki. Roki playing Isabelle probably doesn't have to worry about Deuce too much, but could be an interesting set. Hashio, less sure. Hashio, I'm not so sure about them. I think they're just kind of generically okay. I'd be surprised if they beat Roki, but not like overly. The other side is Tora and Rizeo. Rizeo is another Isabelle. Tora plays Samus. Yuiton, I believe, is a Wii Fit trainer. So it's the players on this side. Rizeo could, like, if Tora plays really, like, bad with his projectiles, Rizeo could definitely, like, take the win over here, but Tora's probably favored to make it out on this side and fight Roki. I think Tora Roki is actually going to be a very close set, and I think these two are pretty close in seeds, so that's going to be interesting. Pool 28. B28. Dio's on the top here. Ama is a Wario, I believe. So this is a mutual common, I believe, is Diddy Kong Donkey Kong. So double monkey on that side. I think Dio should be fine on this side. Below here is Mitara and Utama. Utama is a Pyramithra from Hokuriku area. Mitara is Meta Knight. I think this should also be fine. We'll probably get Dio versus Mitara, which will be pretty interesting. But we'll see. B29 Fire is here. Fire I haven't heard too much of recently, but I'm sure they're just doing things in Tohoku. Fire fights Shiomasa to make it out, who is a pretty good Young Link player from Kansai. So yeah, so we'll see. I think Fire should be favored to make it out. They're a very good player. The other side is really interesting. Tora's here. The third seed is Vermilion, who is, I just looked at that. I think Vermilion played Joker. They're from NorCal. Vermilion is definitely seated very high here, and I don't think they will meet the seed. I will be completely honest. Yeah. This is also pretty interesting. Dripnotic, I think, is from Oklahoma. Shusan is a Mario player, I believe. Yeah, Dripnotic's from Oklahoma. I think they're probably PR'd there. I don't know how good they are or who they play, but it's like, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting seeing all these international. And Bruno AV is one of the best players from Ecuador, plays Snake. Tora's probably fine here, but we'll kind of see. I think Bruno AV, not super, I think we don't know a lot about like how good they are relative to kind of the other scenes because South America is so detached, but I think Tora probably doesn't have too much to worry about here. But I think the bigger thing is I think Shusan probably beats Vermilion is my guess, which means Vermilion and Bruno would fight in losers. So I think Bruno is probably going to make it here into lose quarters where he fights Shiomasa. So we'll kind of see what happens there. B3000 Chon versus Chown is crazy. This is definitely intentional. Neodax is Bayonetta from Belgium, so I think this is interesting. Fox beats Bayo though, so I think Chon should be fine here. But Neodax is pretty solid. We have JP on the other side, which always playing Sheik. Takaberry playing Ken is concerning for Sheik, just because of how quickly she dies. And WebJP, not a paragon of consistency, but if WebJP locks in, I think he has a good shot of making it through. And WebJP has defeated Light a few times, so I think Chon is going to be a good draw for him if he makes it out. B31 Mati. Oh, I actually saw this pool. This is a pretty interesting pool. So Mati fights Smix, who's a pretty good Bowser Jr. I think technically the best Iggy Koopa in the world, but I don't know how useful that is as a label. But Mati is a Rosalina Minmin player from Chubu. They're very good. So I think they probably make it past Smix. The other side I think is the interesting part where Rivers is here. And Rivers actually has beaten Dabuz very recently. So I think this is a little bit like, it's definitely up in the air for Mati. Obviously Rivers has to get through this player Kani, who is a Steve player. So we'll see how good Rivers is against Steve, but if he makes it through, he has Mati. So which I think is a good draw for him based on just his record against the Buzz and just his experience there. B32, Spickles is the top seed here. Spickles fights Tai, is Incineroar player to make it out of his pool. Is this Shino from Shino Stalling? Or is this different Shino? I actually don't know. Kagami. I think this might... I don't know. Can't tell. Their account is suspended. So, we will see. So, Spickles, Tai, I mean, Tai's not a great player. They just play Incineroar. Spickles has a little bit of Incineroar experience with Shane. I don't know how often they play, but they are from the same state. So, I assume they played like once or twice at least. But, yeah. So, I think he should be fine there. The other side is Roteshia versus Raito. Now, Raito is definitely out of practice, so I'm not entirely sure how prepared he's going to be, but obviously historically a very good player playing Duck Hunt. I think still dabbling in Banjo and Greninja. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Roteshia, Solo Pyramithra. One of the best in the country. One of those kind of like algo bait players who always like just takes really good losses and doesn't really do anything else. So we'll kind of see how they go here. I think Roteshia Spickles is going to be a very close set. Obviously they're probably I think they're pretty close in seed as well. Yeah, Spickles and Shane playing decently often, that makes sense. So Spickles should be fine getting out of his pool. It's just Roteshia I think is a little bit, I don't know, kind of, I think those two players are maybe like close in skill. And I think just like we'll see how that goes. So that's wave B. I kind of don't really want to look at, we'll check out what this pool here. Spickles, Dormiki, Urasaki, Spickles, Roteshia. We talked about this one. I think Spickles probably losing to Dormiki. Dormiki obviously not great versus Luigi, but I guess we'll see. I don't know how good Spickles is against Min is the thing, so we'll see here. Omega Niai, Masha Kyo. We've talked about Omega Niai already, where I think Omega is pretty favored to make it to this point, but I'm not sure about who he's fighting here. Masha versus Kyo could be concerning. I think Cosmos, we've talked about, always like a potential for an upset. I think Salatin is probably not the most concerning for me. I think the other person in this pool is, who I forgot already, but I remember like a little bit suspicious, some weird low tier. And I think Cosmos now is going to be pretty close as well. There's like Yoshidora Gact. I think Gact and Tomisa is actually pretty concerning for Gact. Tomisa can definitely beat Gact and then go on to fight Yoshidora. This wave, Syrup Mati, Syrup Rivers. Syrup Rivers potentially happening is pretty funny, actually. Rivers obviously doesn't go to too much, so I don't know how often he's fought Syrup, but having that happen for top 192 is kind of crazy. Mildna, Miko, Navy, Rinoha, Ken, Yuto, Yu, Shirome. As I said before, Shirome I think probably beats Yu. Has an outside shot of beating Ken. Ken is a little bit above Shirome's like kind of level. Shirome is probably like a low top 100 level player, low mid top 100 level player. So Ken is a little bit of a reach, but he's lost to Weirder. And then Siski here, Rimu Peanut obviously. I think Rimu's gonna take that. Siski fighting Minmin into Minmin. We'll kind of see how that goes, but yeah. This wave, MK Leo Chan. I think this is if this goes as projected, I think WebJP is very likely to beat Chan to fight MK Leo. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Neo Kurofune Tas, Neo Lumi. I don't think there's anything too crazy to worry about here. Neo's probably going to beat Kurofune. I think he's a pretty good record versus Sonic. Kikisu here. I think Roki Tor is a little bit of a toss-up, but I think both will end up losing to Akakikasu. And then Peanut Ocha. I think Peanut Ocha is pretty interesting. And then I don't know who's going to come out of the bottom lead for Akari Mizunashii, but I think this is a pretty interesting part of the bracket. Obviously, just like all zoners, but worth keeping an eye on. I think just the results on this part could get a little bit dicey. B36 on and Whip. I think we've talked about already. Just Steve and Migun are a little bit strange. And then Fire, very good Pyramithra player. And then Tora obviously playing Ike. So these are all like not super free matchups for Steve. So we'll kind of see how Anand does in that. Skeleton we've talked about might just fold to one of the low tiers in his pool, which would kind of set Reno up for pretty good success, assuming that I don't know. Delta Force doesn't like go crazy on that part. On this other bottom here, Tomapi's historically been not too terrible versus Snake, so this is a little bit of a concerning matchup, so we'll kind of see how that goes. And then Suzu Kuroponzu, obviously a very, I don't know, this is definitely an upset watch here, this Suzu Kuroponzu set, so we'll kind of see how that goes as well. So that's wave B. It's 2 o'clock. Help. Halfway through. I don't know what that means. I think that means I might be going to sleep at 3, but that's fine. We'll try to go a little bit faster. C100. Akola's here, fresh as a Pac-Man from upstate New York. Kairu, I don't know who they play, honestly. I know Uchi plays Mario. Other side is Targatori versus Poppy. Poppy's a Donkey Kong, which is concerning for Targatori, but Von Moosler is a Pichu, who is concerning for Poppy. So we'll kind of see how this goes. This is sort of like a rock, paper, scissors on this side. But Moosler is from Hong Kong, one of their best players, so it's cool to see him make it out here. I don't know how well he will do, but I think he's a pretty good... he's a decent shot of beating Poppy just off of matchup, I think. C200, Shuton. I think Yamayu is one of the best players from Okinawa, which doesn't really mean a lot, but it's just interesting to point out. And then Shirley, I think, is a Pyrometer player. Alive is a hero, I believe. Nakazono, Minmin, Yaya is a banjo player. So yeah, I think Shuton should be fine here. Nakazono is maybe a little bit concerning, but nothing that Shuton hasn't beaten before. So yeah, this wave pool is not too crazy. Sonic's here. Sonic's fights Yone to make it out. Yone is a Rob from, I think, Okinawa or Kyushu, somewhere around there. The other side is Fu and Hakatako. Hakatako is a Luigi. Fu is an Olimar. Sonic's obviously has been studying Olimar. Recently beat Shuton. Probably won't struggle with Fu, but we will see. I think it's pretty difficult to get in the Olimar Sonic level that Shuton's at, and obviously Sonic's pretty good player, so don't think there should be too much of an issue there. C4, Tweak is at the top here. I think Tweak is one of the people are worried about most going into the event. His pool's finals is Hayase or Mayaru. Hayase is a Greninja, Mayaru is a Ridley. And honestly, Tweak's pool doesn't look too bad. Koyupan plays the Buzz. He plays Olimar, Miniman, Rosalina. Midori Maru is a Rob, I believe. So yeah. I don't really have any opinions on these guys. Johnny actually... I didn't know Johnny was here. Johnny's a pretty good online Mii sword fighter. Made it out of pools at a recent big event. So that might be interesting to see how far he goes. But other than that, nothing too crazy to worry about here. I think Tweak should be fine, at least for this phase of the pool. C5, Snow is at the top here. Aosa and Kawasan. Kawasan's Jigglypuff. Aosa's a Zerasu. I think Snow should be fine here. The other side is Ryuk. Ubuge is a Duck Hunt player who famously destroyed Big D's Kagaribi experience. So it's an interesting guy to see, but I think running to Rob is unfortunate for him. Definitely not an Ice Climbers. Rearlit is a very good Bowser player. And then D2 Da is a Meta Knight from Florida, but I don't think they've been very good. They're that great now. Used to be pretty relevant. It's kind of just one of those guys is here to enjoy the vibes. So I don't think there's too much to expect from this side. I think Ryuk Rearlit is definitely a toss-up to fight Snow, but I don't think Snow should have too much of an issue with any of the characters or players in this pool. Oh, PF And is also a Chinese player. That's pretty cool. C600. Brickboss, I think, is from Australia. That's the first thing I noticed. T is over here. T fights Gendablow to make it out. I think they fought, actually. Or no, sorry, I'm thinking of Timothy Man. I don't think T is fought Gendablow. Gendablow, a Incineroar player. Definitely don't think he's beating T. I think T is fine here. Salt Lord is a good Pyramithra from NorCal. MDK Pit from Kansai. Fine Pit did recently beat Siski, to many people's surprise. I don't know. It was a weird upset. So we'll kind of see how this goes. I think Salt Lord is definitely favored over MDK. I think Salt Lord is just a better player, but we will see. And then whoever makes it out has to fight T, which I think T should be fine in most counts. C7, Shattuck at the top, Yuba, and Kurotoa. Kurotoa, I think, plays... It's either Snake or Yoshi. I don't remember. Yoshi. I think he's a Yoshi player just based on the fact that he's retweeted this Hayo tweet, but we'll see. Kurotoa is a Yoshi player, yes. So I think Shadow should be fine on this side. The other side is Claw, Mochi, Sakurin here, another Korin. Dakotsu is an okay Pac-Man. Claw is a pretty good I think Mii Brawler, Mii Sword Fighter. Mii Brawler, Mii Gunner now. A dual main, so we'll kind of see how that goes. I'm not sure how much experience Shadak has with like Mii Gunner specifically, and Claw will have just fought Mochi, so this will be pretty interesting, kind of seeing how that plays out. But I think Shadak should be mostly fine here. Say 100, Torigiri up here, Yubasi down below. Yubasi is a Falcon from Kanto. They're fine, but definitely probably not beating Torigiri. Can't say definitely, because you never know what will happen here. Kashiya, Muhyojo. This is Falco versus DDD. And this is just like kind of an alpha matchup, but I think Muhyojo has beaten Watanabe, which doesn't really make any sense, but so definitely has a shot versus Kashiya, obviously unfavored for sure. Yamanyan, old school Zero Suit. I don't even know if they still play Zero Suit, but yeah, just interesting to note there. So yeah, we'll see. I think Torigiri looks fine here. I think Torigiri will probably have some issues with Kashiya, just Falco Banjo is not a good matchup, and Kashiya is a pretty solid player, so going out of the pool will be a little bit concerning for him, I think. C9, Crepe Soleil. Crepe Soleil fights Shobi or Capriccio. Shobi is a Meta Knight, Capriccio is a Bowser Jr., I think. Shoutouts to Gimmer for no reason, just that he's there. I think Crepe Soleil should be fine there. On the other side is Onjoji, Jagame, Onjoji Snake, Jagame Greninja, and then Roka is another Greninja who's from spent a lot of time in Massachusetts, is okay, definitely not beating Onjoji, and then Kasawi is a Yoshi who's from Japan but currently residing in New Jersey, I believe. So this is a pretty interesting part of bracket. I think Jagame and Onjoji will probably make it into this finals, but I think it's a toss-up between them who will win there, and I think we'll see how that affects what happens with Crepe. So, yep. C1000 Watanabe here. Ritsu is a Lucina player, so I think Watanabe should be fine there. Parme, Kogeta Gohan. Parme, a Samus, Kogeta Gohan, a Ness / Pyramithra player. So, yeah, I think probably we'll see here. Parme very good, obviously, but Kogeta Gohan is decent and obviously playing Samus Ness. So we will. I think this is like potentially like a possibility of an upset. Kogeta Gohan over Parme. Watanabe never safe from an upset, but I think he looks like he's an okay path here. So yeah. C11 Jazo at the top here. Haruchi, I actually don't know who this guy plays. I think Dodosco plays Steve, but I'm not really sure. Haruchi plays Game & Watch. Maybe? Commit? Terry? Maybe he's a Terry player? Kind of looks like a Terry player. Anyway, so I think Jazo probably should be fine making it out there. The other side is Meiki versus Pastel. Pastel is a Pikachu, Meiki is an Olimar, and I think that's where Jazo's going to have a little bit more issues dealing with whoever comes out on this side. I think Meiki's definitely favored, but Pastel could do it, and then it's Pikachu versus FGC or Olimar versus FGC, so we'll kind of have to see how that goes. But I think Jazo should make it out of pools pretty fine. His match out of pools will be a little bit more worth looking at. C12 Uame, Mersenne Primes is a Game & Watch, Yahon is a Cloud. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. I think if Yahon plays super well, I think he can beat Mersenne Primes and then beat Uame, because he does have a bunch of like really nice matchups for him. But we'll see. The other side has Meido and Nimba. Meido Zero Suit, Nimba Pichu. Nimba very good. Meido also very good. So we'll kind of see, like matchup wise, this is something to watch, just Pichu Zero Suit. But we'll kind of see how that goes. And I think either way, if Uame makes it out of his winter semis without running into Cloud, then I think he will probably be fine on that end. C13, level 1. Okay, Opsi's really high seated here. I think Opsi definitely loses to Keisha, maybe even Morley. Obviously, is a Steve player from Idaho. I think they're like top 5 in the state, so I think it's pretty interesting to see them all the way up here. Rune is, I think, a Pyromither player. Onisan is interesting. They are, if this is the same Onisan, this is a old school like Bayonetta player. Who's really, yeah, this is the same one. Who is really good online. So I think this is actually pretty interesting. Onisan could defeat Rune here to make it to this part. Level 1 just loses when he feels like it, so we won't know. But I think this looks like fine for him. He'll probably have to fight Keisha at the end here. Which we'll see how that goes. But I think level 1 has historically been pretty good versus Snake, and there's a lot of snakes in his region, so I think he should be fine on that front. C14. This is Alice's pool. Alice has Kamikawa, who is nice climbers. Ampan Oishi is a Ken, I believe. So not too worried about Kamikawa making it to Alice, although Kamikawa has definitely an outside shot of beating Alice, but I'm not. Oh, is Kamikawa might be the Mario, actually. I don't remember. No, I think they're the ice climbers. So I think Kamikawa is the ice climbers. I think Kanikama, who we saw earlier and I forgot, was the Mario. On the other side we have Pau. Pau is another Steve from Idaho, also plays Pac-Man. And then Torog, who I believe is a NES player. So Kumo Satoshi, I think, is a... I've definitely seen this tag before. I don't remember who they play. I think it's like Pokemon Trainer or something. Or sorry, not Pokemon Trainer. Maybe Snake. This is an interesting pool. I think Pau also very overseeded, especially based on kind of where a bunch of the other invaders have been seated. So this is a pretty interesting... We'll kind of see what happens with this one. I think Pau losing to Turog is definitely a possibility. I think Kamikawa beating Alice is on the table. So this is just, we'll find out. C15, Big Boss is here. Yakuru is on this side with Washi. Washi's a Ganondorf, Yakuru is a Fox. Either way, I think Big Boss should be fine on this side. The other side, a little bit more concerning for him. Ike is on the top here. Kaiki is on the bottom. Kaiki is a Min. Ike is a Snake. Ike is very good. Has beaten Apollo Kage in the past. Kaiki is less good, but probably still fine. Has a chance versus Ike and Min Snake, but I think he probably just gets steel differential. I think Ike Big Boss is going to be a pretty interesting set going out of this pool. Hinobuki is the 12-year-old Cloud, and I don't really have anything to say about them, but they're there. And this guy's name is Yellow Yoda. C16, Fui's pool. Fui's Kana, I believe, is a Rob. So I think Fui should be fine. The other side is Luigi Kid 64, who is a pretty good Luigi from Tri-State. I don't remember. I think they're Jersey, but they might be New York. Yeah, had a really good run at Let's Make Big Moves, and has just been playing really well this year in general. Gotten pretty high on some of their regional PRs, so that's interesting. The other side is Irohasu and Shitadake. Irohasu is a Steve, Shitadake is a Pit. Irohasu probably making out to Luigi Kid 64, who we will see what will happen with that. I think Luigi Kid will probably take that, and we'll see how he does against Fui. If he's Jersey, he'll probably have a better shot just because of Yoshi experience, but I'm not entirely sure, and Fui's a lot better than Luigi Kid, so wouldn't count on it, but you know. C17, parent box at the top here. Shintaro and Zawazawa are his 4 and 5 seeds. Shintaro, I believe, plays, I want to say Snake, but I'm not 100% sure. Shintaro's from Hokuriku, I know that. Zawazawa is a plant player, has beaten players such as Atelier. No, Shintaro's a Ridley player, I actually didn't know that. So we'll kind of see. Parent box is kind of susceptible to losing to strange characters. I don't think he's losing to plant. I think he could lose to Ridley. The other side is Suwasubo and Ioma. Tukune DE is a okay DDD. Ioma is a Rob, I think Rob Joker from Tooku. So they're like pretty decent. I think they're top 5 on their PR or so. The PR over there. Suwasubo, Olimar Joker. Pretty decent player, was really good in like 2021. Then kind of stopped attending as much, but I think 2025 he's kind of come back and done a lot of things, so I think he's pretty good. Suwasubo was good 2021, 2022, I think. So yeah, we'll see. C18, Mark is here. This is Light from, I think, Alabama, who's a Yoshi player. Abu is a Terry. And then Kyoko is a Little Mac. Ave is a Mario from Georgia. So, yeah, pretty interesting group of top seeds here. I think Mark Light is pretty cool. Just like Yoshi versus Yoshi. I think Mark is good enough that he won't have an issue beating Light. And honestly, Light has an outside chance of losing to Abu. But, yeah, the other side, Kyoko and Ave, I think... Ave's... I don't know. I don't think Ave will beat Kyoko, but it is Little Mac, so we'll see. But Kyoko is one of the best Little Macs in the world and is presumably pretty good at beating anti-Little Mac stuff. So we'll kind of see on that one. But yeah, I do think Ave is a little bit overseeded here as the third seed in the pool. I would probably I might seed it below Light even sometimes, but yeah, definitely, I don't know, a little bit overseeded, I feel like. C19 is Beastly. Beastly's 4 and 5 are Inabakoshi Hojiomi, who is a Kazuya who just beat level 1. Yaminabe, who is a Little Mac. We'll kind of see with Beastly. These are not like the regular like zoner matchups that Beastly has a lot of issues with, so maybe he's fine there. The other side is Sora and Tuachi and Zarik, who is a Yoshi. Tuachi is hot and cold, but still pretty solid. Has gotten top 8 at a pretty big Sumabato, so interesting there. And we'll see how he does versus Beastly. If he makes it there. Obviously, Zarik is solid and Tuachi is not the most consistent, so it's possible that Zarik pulls it out. But I think Tuachi is pretty highly favored to make it out and fight Beastly. C2000 is Yonepi. Yonepi fights Kuya, who is, I think, a Pyramithra or something from... I know they're from Okinawa, which is not the strongest region. Yeah, I think they're Pyramithra, just based on their profile picture. Usually the profile pictures can give you a good hint. So, yeah, Masa is a Mario, I believe. Or, no, sorry, Masa is a Diddy Kong. Yeah, so I think Yonepi is fine here. Abadanga's on the other side. We haven't seen much of Abadanga recently, so I'm not sure, but I think he's still probably pretty fine. Ishii is a Wii Fit trainer. Amedo, I know, is a Yoshi, but I don't think they're relevant here to this part of bracket. So it's Abadanga versus Ishii, which I think Abadanga has a pretty good shot of winning just based on experience. And Ishii, decent Wii Fit trainer, but not like the greatest. So yeah, I think probably Abadanga versus Yonepi, and from there, who knows. C21 is Chag's pool, and Chag is one of those players that can just lose. So we'll see. Chag's 4th seed is Takenoko, who's a decent Pac-Man. So not like a character that you expect Chag to like not know what to do against and lose to, but we'll see. And then the other side is Harasan at seed 2, Tengu at seed 3. Tengu is a Min, I think, and Harasan is a Ice Climbers, so unlucky draw for Harasan. Harasan also does have a Falco though, so probably will be using that against Min if it comes to it. Dugongs is a decent player from Australia. I don't remember who they play. I want to say it's like, I have no clue actually. I guess maybe Roy? I think it's Roy. I think they play Roy. Oh, we can look at this. Dugongs. Yeah, Dugongs is a Roy player. So we'll see. I think Dugongs probably has work cut out for him. This is a terrible pool for a Roy player, especially on this side with Min and Ice Climbers. So yeah, we'll just have to see. C22, Kome is at the top here. Sirloin is his seed 4. Sirloin is a Toon Link from Chubu. Pretty solid. Kome definitely favored, but Kome can do whatever. Kome can lose to whoever, so it's not out of the question. On the other side, we have Mao and Choco. Now, Choco's the 3rd seed. Is pretty surprising. Choco's obviously old school Zero Suit. Has not gotten to much, which is probably explains why he's so low, but still very good player. Mao on Min. I think Choco's a good shot of beating Mao, and honestly, a decent shot of beating Kome as well. I think Choco, it's possible that Choco just makes it out of this part. of the bracket. C23, PK Chris. Furami is a Kazuya player, so I don't really know what PK Chris's like experiences with Kazuya, but we'll have to see. On the other side is Atelier and Tsubaki. There's also Phil here. Phil is a Sonic from Hokkaido. This Tsubaki is a Donkey Kong from Okinawa, who is okay but not incredible. Atelier, obviously a Wolf Pokemon trainer. Pretty good player. I think Atelier PK Chris is going to be a pretty close set if they play. Rufugun is also here. Actually, I think Rufugun is a pretty good Robin player from online. Has done some okay things offline, but I think this is a good path for them to make it into Tsubaki, into Phil, past Phil, and into winners semis of this pool where they fight Atelier. And then who knows from there. Wolf Robin doesn't sound playable, but Atelier's lost the stranger characters, so it's possible that Rufugun makes it out of this pool. I think if he does, he'd probably just lose to PK Chris, but definitely a player to watch out for in this bracket. C24 is exploded. There we go. Okay, so Elego is the top seed in this pool. Elego's 4th seed is Zeon, who is a Falco originally from the United States, but now lives in Thailand. So I don't know how much I think they play pretty decently. I know Zeon's 2nd there to Eldon, who's originally from South Carolina, but also in Thailand now. So pretty interesting there. Falco, Young Link. Not entirely sure. I think Elego's just better enough to a point where Zeon's probably not a super big issue for him. The other side is Crate, Katamari. Tenark here is a Fox Shulk player from Korea. I guess this is the 5th seed, 6th seed of the pool. So yeah, Katamari is Duck Hunt, Crate is Palutena. I think Crate probably just makes it through fine. I think Katamari probably just beats Tenark. And yeah, I think Crate Elego is a little bit more of a toss-up, but I think Elego's still better enough to a point where I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue there. Gonna check that, okay. C25. This is Chase's pool. Now Chase has some interesting players here. Otaku is a Min here, who is pretty okay, but the seat person here is Shinmai, who's another unseeded Robin. So this player can also make it through. They have definitely a worse path than Rufugun did. Otaku is definitely a bad draw, and I think Ikan no Sashimi is. I don't remember. I think they only play a sword character, but I'm not 100% sure. So it could be an interesting pull for Chase when he gets to like this point, but Shinmai will have to make it through Otaku, which is going to be a little bit difficult. On the other side is Avaru and Hecho. Marumine is a hero. Marumine here is a hero. Hecho here is a Falco, and then Avaru is a Steve Minmin and Game & Watch player. So I think, I don't know. Avaru's been getting a lot better recently, and I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Avaru make it out and then beat Chase. Hecho is okay, though, and, like, these matchups are, like, playable for Falco, so I don't know, like, I think it's, like, pretty up in the air what happens there, but yeah, so that's kind of that. I think Chase has been looking a lot better recently and just more consistent, so we'll kind of see how this pool plays out. C26, Hero's at the top here. Iwai is a Cloud, AIAK I think is a Greninja, Kuroma is a DDD. So nothing too concerning for Hero, I think, on this side. Jagaimo on the other side, though, I think is the concerning one. Jagaimo fights Marcos. This is not the Rob Marcos. This is a player from Hokkaido who plays Captain Falcon. So we'll kind of see. Jagaimo hasn't played in a long time, so it's not entirely clear how in practice he's going to be, but obviously a very good player when he was active. So I think definitely has a chance of making it out and then defeating Hero. Dixie, I think, is from Taiwan. I don't really have anything to say about them. They're just here, and I think that's pretty interesting. C27, Lax is pool. Lax is the first seed here. Ryochin, I don't remember who either of these people play. I'll look up Ryochin just really quick. Ryochin Kirby? No, I think they might be. I think they're the Shoto player, Ken Ryu. So probably fine for Lax. The other side is Tomitomi versus Lux. Tomitomi is a Mega Man player. Lux is a Rosalina. Cross Igarashi is here too. Cross Igarashi is a Lucario, but I don't think they're like, I don't know. I don't think the top seasons will have to worry about him too much. But yeah. So I think Tomitomi, the Rosalina is a little bit concerning, but I think Tomitomi is a very good player. I think they're pretty underrated and pretty not talked about. And I think they have an okay shot of like beating Lax, for example. So yeah. C28. Shadows is the top here. Shadow the Mario. Yutori, I believe, is a Joker player. Membo is Pikachu. Yutori might be like a Robert. That might be like a K-Roll player. I don't know, dude. There's too many people. The other side, Nise Mamo is the second seed. Menzoku is the third seed. Now Menzoku, old school Toon Link, went inactive for a bit, but is still pretty good, I think. So we'll see. That last time they entered the tournament, they were like bottom seed, and they fought Hurt like round 2. So this is definitely better for them. Nowbody is a Little Mac from France. I don't think Menzoku should have any issues with them, but this is just interesting to note. I think Nobody has like an outside chance of making it through losers, defeating Yutori or Yutori potentially. And I think Menzoku and Izumamu could definitely be close based on depending on how kind of in practice Menzoku is. C29 Naucha. Naucha is the top seed playing Diddy Kong. Gam is Minmin here. Zurzel here at his first ever major, playing Minmin as well. And then Kempi here is a Snake. Honestly, this looks not, I don't know, there's nothing too crazy here. I think Nacho, if he plays bad, could definitely lose to Gam, but I think it's unlikely. And I think Zurzel is definitely the big like question mark here, right? Like, I think we're still not entirely sure of how good Zurzel is, and especially on a stage like this in a place he doesn't know, with people who kind of play a lot of Minmin. So we'll kind of see how he does versus like Kenpi, for example. But this is a good draw for Zurzel to make it out of pools and winners at least. So nothing to complain about here for them. Pool C 3000. Notori is the top seed here. Wabu is a Wii Fit trainer. Probably not too much of an issue for Notoriu. The other side is Takara versus Takara and Eliath. Takara, Ken, Eliath, Isabel. I think Takara, we'll see. Takara is another one of those players that hasn't been super active recently and could definitely get outzoned by Eliath, but he's a good enough player where I could see him just being fine. And then Takara Notoriu at that point is a little bit like more up in there. Just because of how fast Pichu dies, it's possible that Takara just like down tilts him 4 times and the set is over. So we'll see, because that's still best of 3 territory. C31 Ling here. Ling has done pretty well in Japan so far. I think he's definitely been the most impressive out of all the invaders that have gone. Just based on kind of expectation and how he ended up doing. So we'll see if he can keep that up. His 4 is Hamachi, who is a banjo player, which might be a little bit of a strange matchup for him to run into. So we'll kind of see. On the other side is SSR and Apollo 11. SSR, Rob, Apollo 11, and Meta Knight from Hokkaido. And I think there's another one of those, like, I think we've seen a lot of like Meta Knight versus Rob, because there's a decent amount of Meta Knights and there's a lot of Robs. And again, like, I think it's definitely possible that SSR just loses to Apollo 11 there. And then we'll see what happens from there. A Meta Knight doesn't shut down Peach as hard in this game as he did in the last one, but still not good to be floating against Meta Knight. So we'll kind of see. I think Apollo 11 has an outside chance of making this run, but he's also up against players that are all a lot better than him. So we'll have to see. Finally, C32, Sparkle is here. Now, Sparkle is going to be one of the most interesting players to watch going into this tournament, because he is obviously playing with the Japanese menu as a hero player. So I think that's going to be very interesting for him, and seeing kind of what happens there. His 4 seed is Takune, who is a Korin, who recently got a good win. I don't remember who it was over, but in general, otherwise has just kind of been a pretty okay Kansai depth Korin. So we'll kind of see how I think this is going to be definitely Sparkle's first like major person to watch out for and see kind of like how he's doing. Their side is kind of crazy, honestly. Basaraman's the top seed. Basaraman recently picked up Falco, so he's playing a lot of Fox Falco. So it's an interesting combination. I think Persimmons been playing a lot more, doing a little bit better than he did before. Third seed is DK Will, who I honestly, I don't know. I knew he was going, but it's still weird seeing him here, and I think this is definitely very high seed for DK Will. But the 6th seed here is Bethley. Bethley is the best player from China. I think it was very unclear for a long time how good he was, because he would lose to like the top Japanese players that would come over, but everyone else he just beats. Like, he's undefeated versus China with his main for the last like 4 years, and like his losses are like to Yara and Ryo and Neo, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I think he's been in Japan for a little bit. He is okay. He is not the greatest player, but I think he's got a lot of like matchups that he has to catch up on, because that's kind of the downside of being from like a sort of isolated small region, is that you don't get a lot of matchup experience. So yeah, so we'll kind of see. Bethley has been going to a lot of locals. I know he's been grinding. He's been kind of playing. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And I think this is going to be a close match. I think the other player here to watch out for is 7th seed Alternus. Alternus is a player from MDVA who plays Terry and Little Mac. And I don't know. I think Alternus is definitely worse than Basaraman, but has an outside shot of just kind of causing havoc in this part of the bracket. Even if he loses, if he fights, I think the loser of DK Will Bethley for 7th in the pool, which is interesting, and then Itatakune. So this part of the bracket is just chaotic. I think Bethley. I'm not sure about Bethley versus DK Will. I want to say I think Bethley is definitely more in practice than DK Will is, but DK Will I know does stream a lot, so we'll kind of see how that translates to playing in bracket. And then Alternus Pasaraman is just volatile, and then whatever comes out of that is just going to be insane. So I think this pool is one of the most interesting pools in the bracket. Going to the round 2 pools in C, Akola. I think Sparkle is probably going to lose to Basariman, honestly. Just matchup wise and language wise, I think that's going to happen. There's not much to say about that. I think Fui Luigi Kid is a little bit of a toss up, but I think Fui should walk away from there. Just the Parabox versus Subo I think is more concerning. Kashia Torigiri is like, obviously, like Kashia definitely has a viable shot of making it out there, and then Chase Avaro is just up in the air just based on what kind of happens in that set. I think Crepe probably has a fine shot versus Unjoji. I think the other who was like seeded to get out of this pool, it was, who else was here? There's like another person here that was like maybe a little bit worth looking at, but I don't remember anymore. Which Crepe is here? Oh, it was Jagame. So yeah. I think that's like not too big of a worry. I do think this Crepe Allego is interesting. I know Crepe did kind of destroy Super Semi the last time they played, but I think Semi didn't really know the matchup super well. So we'll kind of see how Allego does in this part. This is obviously here. This is best of 5, so we'll kind of see there's more time to adapt. C34 in this round 2. Shoot on Ling. If Ling makes it out here versus Hamachi, he'll fight SSR or Apollo 11, which we went over. I think Ling honestly has a pretty good shot of just making it through and getting to Shuton, who I don't think he has a lot of chance against. I think Big Boss's path is pretty difficult. Ike to Mark is a pretty rough path for pre-top 192, and I think this is going to be like a common theme. It's just like these are some crazy paths. Ike, obviously a very solid player. Mark, top 8ing a bunch of majors, just very solid. So we'll kind of see what Big Boss versus Mark ends up being. And then Shattuck here, Hero Jagaimo, I think is a toss-up. Jagaimo maybe even has the edge here. And either one of these maybe could pose an issue for Shattuck. I'm not 100% sure. On the other side, Matsunobe looks fine. Into PK Chris, into Parme, into, I think we talked about Parme might lose to like Kogeta Gohan or something, but I think Matsunobe should be fine there too. PK Chris Atelier is a little more up in the air, so we'll kind of see how that goes. C35, Sonic's Fu, and then Naitoru Takara. As stated before, Notori Takara could be interesting, but I think both of those players will end up losing to Sonic. So I think Notori probably has a better shot, but will be very difficult for him. Alice, I don't remember who I thought Pau was going to come out. I don't remember who I thought was going to come out in Pau's place. Probably Trog. So yeah, nothing for Alice to worry about really, I think. Beastly on the other side will probably beat Tawachi, but we'll see, I guess. And then I think this is a pretty interesting part of bracket. Tomi definitely has the potential to beat Lax and T. I think Lax is actually probably the harder player for him matchup-wise. We don't have good players, so could happen. And then here, this is Kome Mao, but I remember, yeah, Choco's also in this part, so Choco could beat Mao into Kome, and then maybe even into Jazo to make it out. And Jazo also, I remember, has like a pretty weird path of Meiki, right? Or was it like Hakataga or something? So no, it was Pastel, I think. So yeah, so I think this part, like this part here, is going to be very strange. Like, I don't know. I think that part of the bracket is going to be pretty crazy. Last round 2 pool for this wave. Tweak's pool. Tweak, Koyupon, Naocha, Zurzel at the top here. This is weird, honestly. If Zurzel is like actually pretty good, like as good as we think, as like he might be, like at the top of where we like his estimate is, then it's possible he could beat Naocha and then go into Tweak. And I don't know what Tweak's like experience with Min Min is, but I think the more likely thing is just Naocha wins and then fights Tweak in the Diddy Kong Ditto, which will be strange. Level 1, I think obviously is not making it here. Just that's kind of just my call. I'm not making a lot of like crazy calls here, but I think that is Keisha is probably gonna make it out on this part, but I think level 1 will be fine. And then into UNAP Abadango. This is a little bit more of a toss-up. Level 1 is definitely susceptible to losing to both of these players, so we'll see. Snow, Ryuk, Shadow, Nizamamo. Nizamamo obviously could be Manzoku, but yeah, so we'll see. This is actually a little bit concerning for Snow because Shadow has so much experience against Now. He's probably the better. He definitely has more experience in the Mario Ditto than Snow has, so I'm not entirely sure how this will play out if it happens. And then Uame, Meido, Chag, Harasan. I think Harasan's probably out of luck to get to this point, but we'll see. Chag obviously has Min, so hopefully that, I don't know. We'll have to see kind of what happens there. But yeah, and then Uame Meido I think is probably, I don't know. There's like an outside chance that Chag loses to Harasan or beats Uame, or Chag even loses to, I think it was Tengu. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah. Alright, last wave. Then I can end stream. This was a very optimistic thing to go for, and I don't know, but we're here already. Spargo's pool I've seen already a little bit. Spargo's pool is a little bit crazy. Kumama is, I feel like I've only seen this player before, but I don't remember who they play, and we'll never know. I think it's a weird character, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure. It's like, Samabra. Oh, this is really funny. What is this? This is a strange group of people. Komama Samabra plays Palutena. Looks like they play. Oh, actually, I don't know. This is not. Looks like they play Palutena, so not a strange character, but. Yeah, so I think Spargo should be fine here. Salt is a Zelda, but I think the other side is the more concerning one for him because this is Trigger, who plays Simon, and then Shindeline, who plays Ganondorf. And these are definitely, like, I think Trigger is less of an issue for Spargo, but I think Shindeline can be scary just because of how explosive Ganondorf is. And Spargo will be fighting either of these players in best of 3. So yeah, Spargo, obviously, incredible player. Probably won't lose, but definitely worth a watch, and if nothing, it might be funny to see him get Ganondorfed. Yeah, we're getting to the part where I think some of these pages died because I've loaded too many at the same time. Zamba at the top here. Zamba fights Nohoho to get out. I think Gravity is definitely from out of region, but I don't know where from. Nohoho plays Ness Lucas. I don't think Zamba should have an issue there. And then Ari on the other side, Tsukasa. Ari on DDD, Tsukasa on Zerasu. I don't think there should be an issue for Zamba here. Ari might lose to Tsukasa just because of mobility differential, but Ari is also a very good player, so I don't know, we'll have to see, but this is one of the less interesting pools, I think. Kurowato, I think, plays Kirby. I don't really know this is not really relevant, but here it is. Ashimo here. Ashimo fights Rima. I think this is the Steve. Yeah, this is the Steve. So Ashimo fighting Steve at the top here. On the bottom is Renji, who is a Pokemon trainer, I believe, from Kyushu, and then SK, who's a Mario. Yeah, nothing too crazy here. Actually, these are like not. This is actually a very soft pull for Ashimo, I think. Rima's obviously a good player, and I think Rima might even be like the third or second best player in the pool, but yeah, these are not like super crazy players to be going up against. I think Ashimo will have a very easy path to best of 5. D400, Gluto's at the top here. Dodges is a Wi-Fi ice climbers, and so I think this is like probably potentially pretty concerning for Gluto, who is playing Wario, obviously. Might pull out the link for ice climbers, but I kind of doubt it just based on his other what he's been doing. Orotoro on down here is a Bowser, so I don't know. We'll see kind of how this plays out, but I think Dodges could pose a serious threat to Gluto. On the other side is Masami and Penguins. Power Pair is a DK. Masami is a Bowser Jr. Penguins is a Kirby. These are all strange players, and Gluto has famously lost to Kirby before in Jesui Shock, but that was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, so it's not super relevant at this point, but it is a funny thing to mention. And yeah, so we'll kind of see how this plays out. If Gluto can make it past Dodges, he has one of these mid-low tier scribbles to play against on the other side. But yeah, D5, Zachary at the top here, Major at the bottom fighting Maidakun. Major Ganondorf, Maidakun Zelda. I don't think Zachary will lose to either of these two players, but I don't know. Major Maidakun in itself just sounds like a pretty funny matchup, so we'll have to see. On the bottom is Aegis and Haruka. Aegis is a Terry player. Haruka is Lucario. I think this is Sky. This is Sky from East Asia somewhere. It's either Taiwan or Hong Kong. There's like 5 of them. Yeah, Sky. This was Sky from Hong Kong. I don't know who. I don't know. I think they play Mario, but yeah. But yeah, nothing too crazy here. I think Zachary should be fine. I think Major Maidakun could beat Major. I don't know. This is gonna be a very funny set, at least. Just these are two players that people are big fans of, so we'll have to see. D6, Wrath's pool. Wrath has Karasu, who I don't remember who they play. Definitely knew at one point, but I don't remember. This player has not been super relevant recently. Yeah, a lot of these Twitter links are just dead. So yeah, on the other side is Wataru and Deer. Wataru is Bowser, Deer is Falco. Definitely could be an upset on this side, but I think Wrath should probably be pretty safe getting through to the other side. D700 is Yara's pool. Yara fights Mute to get out. Mute is a Ken player from Kanto, I think. They haven't played too much, but recently, I guess, but they're decent. And then on the other side is Denkoda, who's a very good Lucas player. Lightning Igarashi, who plays Samus Zerasu. Humble Genius is a Pokemon trainer from Massachusetts. Very fringe PR in Massachusetts is fine. I think plays Pokemon trainer into Samus is not the greatest draw, so not sure they make it through. He makes it through that part, but we'll see. Could probably beat Mute in the bottom to make it out, but not 100% sure. So yeah, I think Yara's biggest worry here is Denkoda making it out, and then having to deal with Lucas Samus, and Denkoda will have probably just fought Lightning Igarashi Samus. So we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. Pool D 800. Riddles is pool. Riddles. The 4-5 seeds are here are Garishin, who is a Donkey Kong, and then Us, who is a Rosalina. Us has notably defeated Neo before. So we'll see. Riddles obviously not super in practice for Ultimate. Did do pretty well at his last tournament, so maybe he's a little bit back on kind of getting everything together before he switches over completely to Street Fighter. But yeah, I think he should be fine versus these two characters specifically, but going forward might be a little bit tough. On the other side is Wanipachi, who's a Meta Knight. Vivid is the 3rd seed, who is a Toon Link from Georgia, who's pretty solid. So we will have to see. I think Wanipachi is pretty good. Both of these players could definitely give Riddles a difficult time. Kitsusuke down here is a Bowser Jr. I don't think they're beating Vivid, but weird things have happened. So Pool D 900. Rorikusu is at the top. Philip is here in the 4th seed. Philip is a Falco player. Rorikusu obviously playing Falco. Steve, Donkey Kong. Should probably make it out fine. The other side is Kibanga, who is a Kazuya player, versus Komugiko, who is a Mega Man player. Komugiko is pretty good historically, was one of the best Mega Mans in the country, probably still is, but just doesn't play too often recently, but is still pretty good when he shows up. I can definitely see him beating Kibanga, and then I don't know what happens afterwards. I think Rorikusu playing Falco and him is a little bit concerning for him, but yeah, I think Komugiko definitely has a shot at making it further than his seed projects. D1000 here, this is the Buzz's pool. The Buzz's 4 seed is Otsu, who plays Rob. Arvent is a Fox, I believe. I think the Buzz should be fine, probably. The other side, I think, is a little bit more concerning for him, which is Akasa Mokumoku. Akasa plays Cloud Palutena. Mokumoku on Yoshi. K is a hero player, very old school player, was active in Melee when that was a current game. So it's pretty interesting, but yeah, so I think the Buzz, obviously a much better player than Akasa, but Akasa's been playing pretty well recently, has beaten Taike, has got top 8 at the weekly Smash Party extended, so maybe he's just playing a lot better now. So the Buzz obviously has a character lineup that is not the best against Cloud, and this is best of 3 territory when they're going to play, so a little bit concerning there for him. D11, Kaninabe is at the top here. Kaninabe plays Fox, as we know. Ada's a Terry on the bottom here. And on, I think this is like probably not too much to worry about. And then D11 on the bottom is G Extreme and Demiya. Shinchan is I think, like a villager player or something, but they're not like super good. So yeah, Demiya is a Sephiroth. G Extreme is a Pikachu from Connecticut. And I think this is probably one of the more upset potential things that people have pointed out, just because G Extreme is from Connecticut. He has played light before. So yeah, also Pikachu Fox being what it is, Kaninabe may have a little bit of issue with him. And G Extreme has defeated Yunoke and B already in his travels. So we'll see. I guess it seems like he's playing well, so it's possible that he pulls out the dub. Pool D12, Super Semi's pool. Super Semi is Kako here, who I don't actually remember who this person plays. We'll never know. God R is the 5th seed, who is a pretty okay Kazuya. So we'll see how Super Semi handles that. The other side is Kazuhito, who is a Chrom. Kurumis, who is an Ice Climbers. Yeah, nothing too crazy to say here. I think Kazuhito Kurumis is definitely a toss-up for who gets to fight Super Semi. And it is, I think, possible that Super Semi could lose to either of these two, though unlikely, especially in the case of Kazuhito. I think Kurumis is a little bit more concerning for Super Semi, just because Europe doesn't really have any Ice Climbers. But yeah, I think this should be probably not too concerning of a matchup for them. Pool D13, Umeki is at the top. His 4 seed is Fusui, his 5th seed is Brood. Fusui on Young Link, Brood on Prana Plant. Brood is crazy low, I think, but he is also playing Planet, and that is a difficult character to be consistent with. So yeah, we'll see. Umeki definitely has some strange matchups. I wouldn't call them bad, but definitely strange. On the other side is Nakatai on the second seed and Masashi on the third seed. Nakatai playing Falcon, Masashi playing Cloud. Masashi, if he beats Nakatai, he could definitely give Umeki a run for his money. Masashi is not really a stranger to having beaten like good players in like good Cloud matchups, so we'll have to see there. D14 Reflo is at the top here. Reflo fights Ayue Okan or Minami. I think Minami is an Inkling, but Ayue Okan is a Bowser Jr. I think they'll play Wendy. So that's interesting. I'm not sure how much Bowser Jr. experience Reflo has, but obviously Palutena being Palutena probably maybe doesn't matter. On the other side is MZK, who plays Dakan, Chaku, who plays Snake. MZK has not been doing the greatest recently, has mostly drowned in a lot of pools. But I think they're still good enough to probably make it out of here to fight Reflo. I think it's unlikely that MZK beats Reflo though, and Chaku I don't think is at the level where he can do it either. D15 Kameme is back after a pretty long hiatus. He's kind of low, I think, seeded, but we'll kind of see what happens with him. He's definitely like a wild card here, seed 60, which probably means that he fights someone really good really early. But yeah, his fourth seed is Mua, who is a Lucina, and the other side is Yuja, who is a Pikachu, and then Sintro, who is a Rob from Austria. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes here. I think Sintro used to be one of the top players in Europe, is not really at that level anymore, but still decent. Probably going to lose to Yuja, who has been picking up steam a lot recently, and definitely probably I think the best Pikachu in Japan, one of the best in the world at this point. We'll see how Kameme deals with kind of this. I think Mua should not be an issue for him. I think Yuja might be, so we'll have to see. D16 Ake is at the top. No Luck is 4th seed. No Luck is a Mega Man. Has lived in Japan for a long time, but is originally France. So kind of still like referred to as French, even though he's literally been in Japan for like a decade at this point. At the bottom here is Nice Goncher, who's a Wii Fit trainer in the 2nd seed. Haroro, who's a Jigglypuff in the 3rd seed. You're Too Slow is a Sonic. They're from like Florida or something, I think, but they're not like super good at this point. I think they're more relevant in Smash 4 and Brawl. But yeah, so I think Ake should be mostly fine here. No Look, a decent player, but probably not beating Ake. And then I think Hororo is a little bit overseeded for a 3rd seed here, fighting Nice Goncher. So I don't see any like crazy upsets happening in this pool, but yeah, so we'll see. D17. Shiryuki's pool. Shiryuki fights Warubo, Mercy. Mercy is a Sephiroth. Warubo is a... I don't remember who they play. I looked this up like pretty recently, but I don't remember. I want to say like Min or something, but don't quote me on that. And then Shion on the other side. This is Hokkaido Shion, the original. Plays Zero Suit, and then Crossgay, who plays Toon Link. This is... Shion Crossgay is honestly a toss-up. And I think either of them have an outside chance of being Shiryuki, but it's not very likely. I think Shiryuki probably has a decent shot of just making it through this pool unscathed. Pool D18 is Tarek's pool. Tarek has actually has a pretty unfortunate draw on Nagi, who is a hero player. Obviously, the menu is a little bit concerning. Nagi famously played Mutace when Mutace came to Japan a few years ago, and he is a menu hero, which is especially bad for overseas players. So we'll kind of see. I think Greninja definitely does better into hero than Peach does, and yeah. 5th seed in this pool is Ricehead, who is a Mewtwo player who could theoretically just beat Nagi and make Tarek's life a lot easier, but we'll see. On the other side is Tet, who is a Pit player, and then Kuribon, who is a Cloud player. I don't really have too much to say about them. I think these players are decent. I think both of them have an outside chance of beating Tarek. Tet more. Just Tet has been a good player. I think has not been as good recently, but still fine mostly. So yeah. Yeah, Tarek, definitely his biggest concern is Nagi here, but we'll see. Pool D19. This is Akio as the 1st seed. Akio is a 1st seed. Mion is a Terry, I believe. Clive is a Sora from Connecticut. Akio, obviously, one of the best Shulks, 2nd best Shulk, maybe best Shulk, top 2 Shulk in the world. I think he should be fine in this part of the bracket. There's no matchups that are too insane for him to deal with. On the other side is Yeast, who is obviously brawler from New Jersey. Kaworu is a Joker player, I believe, and then Onichan is a Min Cloud Pyramithroid player. I think Onichan is not like super in practice. He's also fighting Awesome Ramen, who I think is a guy who's been around since pre-quarantine, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I think Koru, whoever makes it through here is probably going to lose to Yeast. And then Akio Yeast, I know Yeast thinks, I think Yeast thinks Shulk is not that bad for Mii Brawler, so we'll kind of start to see what he feels like doing there. D2000 is Karage's pool. Karage fights Manima in round 2. Manima is an Olimar player, has not really been active, but has been okay in the past. Shuzo the Joker. Takenoiro is a Bayonetta. I don't know. Karage has definitely been subject to some very strange upsets, so it's possible that he loses here, but nothing here screams like very extremely losable on this end. Oolong's on the other side. Oolong is a Wii Fit trainer from MDV. I think they moved to Japan, so they'll probably be showing up in a lot more Japanese brackets, but they are here for now. Suzune is the 3rd seed. Suzune is a Mewtwo. Goes to everything, has beaten people sometimes, but mostly kind of gotten owned. But if there's any matchup for him, Wii Fit trainer is probably not a bad one. And then Jaguchi is a Marth player, who's probably the best Marth in Japan now that Riziasu is inactive, which is still not saying a lot, but yeah. So anything, I don't know. There's a couple of pretty solid players in this pool. I think Karage is definitely one of the players that can just kind of fold over to whoever. So I think it's possible that he loses to Manima, for example, that he loses to. He could definitely lose to Oolong. He could maybe. I think it's very unlikely to lose to Suzune, but yeah, we'll see. D21 Chicken is here. Fentes is the 8th seed. Fentes is a pretty good Wi-Fi Greninja, I believe. Bean is from Taiwan. They're a Daisy player. I think they're top 3 in Taiwan. So interesting player there. Washi is a Mewtwo on this side. So some interesting pulls for Chicken, but nothing that I think is too concerning for him. And then on the other side is Gaosan, who is an Incineroar player on the 2nd seed. And then Amo on the 3rd seed, who's a Steve player, and MD in the 6th seed, who is a Falco from, I think, Kansas. Falco, I think MD has a good shot of beating Amo, and maybe even Gaosan, just based on character deficiency. So I think MD has an okay shot of making it through into winners into phase 2, but not 100% sure on that one. And the other side, I don't know. Fantas, I think, is unproven. He's gone to one tournament and did okay, not great, not awful, but we'll have to see. D22 Yaman Actions pool. One note: I know that Shrudik is in this pool, and Shrudik did not get seeded despite being, I think, top 5 in NorCal, top 6 in NorCal. Very good Inkling player. Unfortunately, running into Yaman Action, probably one of the worst high seed draws that he could get. But Yaman Action has also lost to strange characters, so we'll see. 4th seed in this pool is Taisho, who is a Snake. I think from Hokuriku, they're okay, not incredible, but Yaman Action definitely, like I said, susceptible just losing to people. On the other side, Echo is the 2nd seed. Echo, Palutena Diddy Kong from France, has gotten some good wins. Has beaten Rarikasu at Sumabado, has generally done okay in Japan, so not too bad. And then Heshi is his 3rd seed, who is a Samus player from, I think, Chugoku. So yeah, we'll have to see kind of what happens in this pool. I think Tori-chan is a Kazuya. Tokayu is a Pac-Man, I think. Yeah. But Tokayu has not been active for a while. Weibo-kun is a... I know this player. This is a Wii Fit trainer. I think they're active online, not as active offline. This is also another potential low seed guy that could happen. In fact, I think it's possible that I don't know, if Weibo-kun and Shriek play really early, it'd be really awkward, but yeah. D23 Tsubaki's at the top here. Kodra is the 4th seed. Kodra is I think a Lucas player from Canada. They're from kind of the prairie area of Canada, I believe, Alberta or something. Yeah. Manitoba. I don't remember who they play. I think they play Lucas, but I'm not 100% sure. And then Celestia is here from somewhere. Fan favorite Sora J on the 3rd seed. Sora J, a Daisy player from MDVA. Celestia is a Lucas player and pretty good Lucas player. So we'll kind of see. Sora J has been in Japan for a little bit, has not really been doing too much. So we'll kind of see how this goes. But in general, I think this pool, nothing too crazy to call out here. Pool T24, Mpopo is the top seed. Mpopo is Rosalina from France. Pretty consistent. Honestly, one of the better French players. Definitely one of the fastest rising European players as of late. Ototsu is a Bayonetta, I believe. And then Ayalen is the 2nd seed here. Ayalen playing Sora. Yama is from, I know Yama's from Hokkaido, but I don't remember who they play. I think they might play like a lot of characters, I want to say. Looks like primarily Bayonetta. Yeah. There I am. So, yeah, I actually haven't seen Yama in a while, so I'm surprised that they're here, but it's pretty interesting. Bean Money is one of the best players in Korea. They're a Game & Watch player, I believe. For a long time, I thought they were Inkling as well, but maybe not. I think they might just play Game & Watch, but yeah. I'm actually pretty interested to see how Bean Money's been doing, especially since I think Linzel and the Shinlin or whatever, the Lucina player, were doing like pretty well at the locals. So I'm pretty interested to see how Bean Money does, because Bean Money is definitely like in the top of Korea. So yeah, so we'll kind of see how that goes. I think I don't think Mpopo should have too much of an issue getting out of the pool. And I don't think Yama will beat Ayalen, but yeah, I think Bean Money definitely has the potential to make it out of pools and losers beating Ototsu. But I don't know. I think this is Bean Money's first time out of country, so it is a little bit like difficult to tell kind of like, I don't know how he'll do. So we'll see. D25, this is Midorian's pool at the top. Midorian fights Osu6 round 1. Osu6 is a old school Nets player, probably not an issue for Midorian, but just interesting to note. Eldon is the 4th seed. Eldon is a Rosalina. They currently live in Thailand, but they're originally from South Carolina. They're okay. And Lemazone Ace is the 2nd seed in this pool. Lemazone Ace, Young Link, a Snake, fighting Mitsuhiko Homono, who's the 3rd seed, who's a Yoshi. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is kind of just like a pool of like decent players, but nothing crazy. Obviously Midorian has leveled up a little bit, recently beaten Shuton, fairly consistent. Lemazone Ace is like a pretty good player though, and would definitely not be surprised to see Lemazone Ace beat Midorian, but he could also just lose to Mitsuhiko, so I don't know, we'll see. D26, Tamego is the top seed here. Sarua is the 4th seed. Sarua is a brawler player. Maybe concerning for Tamego, but I think Tamego's good enough that it should be fine. Money Right is the 2nd seed in this pool. Money Right is from Chugoku. He plays all the characters that Rizziasu does not play. Primarily, I think Wolf, Game & Watch, Pokemon Trainer, Palutena. I think there's one more that I'm forgetting. Wario. So, got a large lineup. And then Fua is the 3rd seed. Fua, an Ice Climbers player. Been around for a long time, so yeah, I'm not sure. I think Money Right can definitely beat Tamego. I think Money Right's good enough, and obviously does play Game & Watch, which is one of Rob's worst matchups, so I think that's likely, and Tamego honestly has like a difficult pool matchup-wise, but Fua could also just beat Money Right, I think. I don't think Money Right is like completely immune to those kinds of upsets, but is pretty fine. D27, Kept is at the top here. 4th seed is Salad Bar, who is a Greninja from, I think, he like lives somewhere in between Kanto and Shibu, I think, but is pretty solid. And then Blue Dog is from the Carolinas. I think they play Inkling. So I think this is pretty interesting. Blue Dog has had some runs at like tournaments in that area that are pretty like, I don't know, definitely pretty solid, but not, I think they're like around like mid PR level in North Carolina. So we'll kind of see how they like hold up over here. Unfortunately, Salad Bar I think is one of the stronger 4 seeds that I've seen in these pools, so a little bit of a difficult draw. The second seed here is Yoshiko, who is a Pac-Man player from Chubu. Nanchan is a Diddy Kong player who is mostly a content creator, I think, but is still pretty decent at the game. Udofi I know of, but I don't remember who they play. Hero, okay. So I don't know. Udofi could definitely beat Nanchan, I think, and then beat Yoshiko just based on matchup. So yeah, we'll have to kind of, I don't know, we'll have to kind of see what happens in losers here. I think Blue Dog also has an outside chance of beating Nanchan to make it out of pools in losers. And then kept Salad Bar. Salad Bar is just like a pretty solid player. I wouldn't be surprised if kept lost to them. D28 Jackal. In the top, Earth. This is Earth the Pit player. He is at the 4th seed. Pokopants is a Steve player, I think, Steve Rob. And he's in the 5th seed. So if Earth can make it past Pokopants, he fights Jackal, which, if nothing else, is just cool. And then on the bottom, Wine is the 2nd seed. Otori is the 3rd seed. Otori is a Villager player. Which, I don't know, unfortunate draw for him. And then Nagu is a Wolf player in the 6th seed here. So Otori not having the greatest time in this pool, but as a pretty solid Villager player, I don't know, he's probably got some anti-bad matchup counterplay. But yeah, so this is pretty interesting. I don't know if Jackal has fought K-Flock or Aloe recently, and I don't know like kind of how those go, but definitely going out of the pool, I think Jackal Wine is definitely set to watch. D29 here, Jagabata is at the top here. Chawanmushi is the 4th seed. Chawanmushi is a hero player, has been getting good pretty quickly, honestly. So I would not be surprised if Chawanmushi just beat Jagabata. This is also a terrible matchup for Duck Hunt. So yeah, I think this is definitely like an upset to watch. I think Shikinami is also just like a player that's might be worth keeping an eye on. I think they're like they play online, but I don't know. Half these Twitter links are dead, so it's kind of hard to tell. On the bottom here is Whiskey. Whiskey has Snake into with Souther into Yuzutsu. Souther is a old Brawl legend. He's been going to a couple of Kansai events recently, but has not been doing super great, so I don't think Whiskey needs to worry about it. Whiskey is the Robin player from Mexico. Honestly surprised he's here, but I don't know, I'll respect it. And then Yuzutsu is a Snake player from around Kanto. Is pretty solid, has not really had like a breakout run, but is just like pretty consistently decent. Definitely has a chance to beat Whiskey here, but otherwise Whiskey might make it out and then might just lose to Chawanmushi, and then Chawanmushi is just in top 192. I don't know. It's a strange world. D3000 Modzai is a top seed here. Amaneko is a Robin player in the 4th seed. Kuroneko, I think he plays Cloud. I'm not 100% sure. And then Sai is a pretty good little mech. I'm surprised they're this low seeded. Kuroneko is a Pyramythoteri player. Okay, so yeah. Maybe considering for Modzai, I know Modzai has kind of been exploding a little bit in Japan, but should have a good chance of making it out in winners. And then on the other side is Marcos. Marcos on the 2nd seed, the Rob. Monto is the 3rd seed, who is a pretty good Duck Hunt. Unfortunately, Rob Duck Hunt, pretty difficult matchup. Inkuru is a okay Ness from Hokuriku. It's possible that Inkuru beats Marcos, but I think Marcos has leveled up in his consistency recently, so seems a little bit unlikely. I know Chahan's name, I don't remember who he plays. So yeah, I don't know. This is pretty interesting. I think Sai is definitely underseeded here. I think he'll probably beat Kuroneko, might beat Amaneko, and then probably just lose to Modzai at this point. But at this point, he's like one set away from making it out of this pool. And then D3 3100, top seed is Fudo here. 4th seed is Joe, who is from Maryland, I believe. Maryland or Virginia, MDVA. He's a Raw player, recently PR'd. Oimoya is a Greninja, I believe. They've been around for a long time. Not super great right now, but yeah, so yeah, I think Xavier is from Tri-State, but I don't entirely know who they play, and I don't think they're like that good. So I don't know. I think Hudo Joe is interesting. I guess I think Joe just kind of gets. I think Joe just loses, to be honest. But yeah, on the other side is Ryukai. Ryukai is Fox Wolf from France. Third seed is Kuhara, who is a Pikachu player. One of the best Pikachu players in the country. Definitely a rough draw for Ryukai here. Genève here is a Robin. So, yeah, could be difficult. I don't know. Here is also sort of like a weird rock paper scissors situation where I think Genève has an okay chance of beating Kuhara, but Xavier's Luigi. Sure, that sounds familiar, but I don't think Xavier's like at the level where he's like, where Hudo's like at danger of losing to him in round 2. So I think, I don't know. Xavier's probably just here to hang out. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to watch out for here is Kuhara versus Ryukai. If Kuhara can make it past Genève is a pretty solid player, has gotten a couple upsets, but is still playing Robin, so yeah. So we'll see if anything weird, strange happens there. I think Kuhara over Ryukai is definitely one of the upsets I've seen so far that it feels pretty likely. And then the last pool, finally, Smub Ridley at the first seed. Nikukyu is at the 4th seed. Nikukyu is an Ice Climbers from Kansai. I think he's honestly been leveling up a little bit recently, so I don't know. We'll see kind of how that goes. I don't know how much Ice Climbers experience Smub has, so we'll kind of see, but I think Ridley does fine into Ice Climbers. And then Cabo Cabo is like a Diddy Konga player, I think. So probably we'll just lose to Nikukyu, but worth mentioning as the 5th seed here. Futari no Kiwamiya is an Ice Climbers player, obviously. Another Ice Climbers. Smub will have Ice Climbers and Ice Climbers seeded if he gets that far. And then YI is a Kirby player. I think Futari no Kiwamiya will just beat YI, but YI is a pretty solid player. Very unconventional playstyle, likes to use the hammer a lot. So I think YI definitely makes that on losers and probably just, I don't know, does something interesting in the next phase of pools, which we'll go look at right now. So yeah, D333. I think Spargo here is definitely hoping that Futari no Kiwamiya beats Smub. Spargo definitely doesn't like the Ridley matchup. Has lost to Nair before, so we'll kind of have to see. Obviously, this slot here is Trigger or Shindalion, which also could be a little bit concerning here. Other than that, nothing too crazy. Shiryuki 8 is like, I think this is probably like a 32-33 seed or something. I think Riddles definitely has a real shot of losing to Midorun or even Wanipachi if he plays not that great. And Popo Ayelen is a little bit concerning, just Swords versus Rosalina, but yeah, and then Rarikasu, we'll have to see. I think this is Rarikasu has, I remember Kabanga has someone who could beat him, Komagiko, so we'll kind of see what happens on that slot. Yeah, nothing else too crazy to point out here. Shinoline being seeded for top 384 is insane, by the way. Pool D 3400, the second of the D phase 2 pools. Mentioned before that this Ryukai could be Kuhara, but I think Hudo should win fine here. And then Hudo Zomba I think is an interesting match that could go Hudo's way if he's playing really well. Kameme, Yuja, Tarik Tet, I think probably depends on how kind of in practice Kameme is, but I do see this as setting up Kameme Zomba, which is a little bit scary for Zomba, honestly. Kameme as a 60th seed, Zomba as the 5th seed, a little bit concerning. I mentioned Yara Denkoda, I mentioned Tamego Money, right? So I don't know. It's possible that this set right here could just be like Denkoda versus Money, right? It's just chaos. And then Deposit Casas, I think one of the sets coming out of pools that is like most concerning for a top seed. So we'll kind of have to see, but other than that, nothing too crazy to catch there. D35, Ashimo, Renji, Manzai, or Marcos. I think, I don't know. Like I was saying before, I think Ashimo has he's like a pretty nice path overall. Flow MZK, Akio, Yeast. I think Akio, I know Yeast is like pretty confident in the Shulk matchup, but it is still Shulk Brawler. It doesn't sound good. And then Akio or Flow, we'll have to see. I don't know how much experience either player has in the matchup. And Akio is good enough to beat Reflow, so definitely worth looking out for. At the bottom here, Wrath Watari, I don't think it's worth thinking about. Kept Yoshiko or whatever happens at this point, I think is fine. And then I think Kept honestly has a pretty decent shot for this Wrath. I know Kept has gone pretty close to Sonics in the past, and this was before Sonics became like the terror that he is today. But he was still like pretty good back then. So, and I doubt Wrath has a lot of experience versus like Village or whatever. So, yeah, I think this is definitely an upset watch. And then Kananabe GX Stream we've mentioned. Whatever happens here, if this is like Yamanaction or Shrudik or whoever goes through the bottom there, I think this part will just be chaos, honestly. Yeah, final phase 2 pool. Gluto at the top here. Again, this could be Dodges coming out against Masami, which would just be chaos, and then I think I was talking about Shawan Mushi coming out over Jagabata. So this could, like, this set definitely has the potential to be like Shawan Mushi versus Masami or something absurd. So we'll see. Obviously, there's a lot of like upsets that need to happen, but I think those are like upsets that aren't super like out of the question. So I don't know. We'll find out. Umeki Karage or Oolong might he be here? Nakatai might be here. This is all this. Zachary Jackal is possible. Wine, I don't know. Zachary feels like a win that Wine might be able to get, but maybe not. And then on the other side, Semi versus Chicken. Interesting match. Chicken is really good, so I'm not sure. Semi might have his work cut out for him there, but we will see. And that is phase 2 and wave D all done. And I'm going to delete this group and free up so much memory. And I have not looked at these, honestly, and I kind of don't really care to. I'm sure other people are looking at these. I don't know. Is there anything like super interesting coming in here? Like Galamba Kame, I think is interesting. Yara Dubaz is unfortunate for Yara, but it'd be like that sometimes. Are there multiple phases? Yeah, there's multiple phases for top 192. Kolofui maybe. Tamapi Suzu. I think Tamapi honestly is a really good. I saw this earlier. This is just like the Steve lineup, but yeah. Siski, if he makes it here, can beat Ken, but I think Siski had a weird path to get here, so I'm not gonna look at it. Sonic's Alice, the rematch is pretty interesting. It's been a long time. Both players have gotten a lot better, so we'll see. Dormigi Omega, Ishidora, Tweak Level 1, maybe interesting. Shaki Matsunabe, Leo Neo. Neo's gotten a lot better recently. Although I think he did Neo fight Leo at Cafeteria Cup? I actually don't remember. So yeah, we'll see. Neo has beaten Leo before, but Leo was kind of playing secondary, so I don't know. I think he's a Peanut. Peanut. I don't really trust Peanut going into that. And then top 64. I think it's kind of crazy to like look at this and see like, oh yeah, Candles Eater for 49. Then it just makes sense. This is an absurd tournament. So yeah, nothing too crazy here. Lightmeister. I think a good half of these players like listed here will just not be at this point in winners at this point. So I don't think it's like worth kind of looking at this too deeply, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of just does it for what I'm looking at. It's kind of late. I don't know how many people are watching because I don't have the number available to me, but I hope anyone who is watching found a little bit interesting, knows what to look for, and yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna end the stream and go to sleep probably because it is so late. Good night.